Future is electric. So what? Soul will remain forever.
Well, a very, very good morning to all of you. Circuit de Dijon-Prenois, a very, very special place. This is the second of 2 days of racing of this 3-day meeting. It's a very famous French meeting. It's the Grand Prix de l'Âge d'Or, and it very much will be a day of the age of gold today. This circuit, a magnificent place to go racing. My name's Bruce Jones, joined by Andrew Mariott, and we've loved what we've seen so far. And at 9 o'clock sharp, the Heritage Touring cars are kicking off with Capris and BMW CSLs and RS 1600s. It's a packed grid.
It certainly is, Peter Auto. This is one of their oldest series. It's been going for over 10 years, and all the front runners are here. It's going to be as it was back in the 80s, a battle between the Batmobile CSLs and the Cologne Capris, as they call, with their V6 engine with a magnificent fuel injection and so on. Mainly French drivers in this. Dutch will be in there, but we do have one leading British driver. Ross Hyatt has got a very nice BMW, and Ross twice a class winner at Le Mans, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. And a nice close-up there in their traditional liveries, of course, Bruce.
Yes, this was a point of real fascination when we were looking at in the driving rain at Spa. But, yeah. I mean, that crisp BMW Motorsport livery we're looking at right now absolutely stands the test of time. But also, obviously, they ran as privateers too. But 1972, 73 were effectively the strongest years of this championship. We also have Group A cars, which are more recent but less powerful. In fact, the best place of those, middle of your shot, it's the Belga Mustang in red and white of Christophe van Riet. But we have some glorious 635 CSI BMWs further back as well. But the front, it's very much BMW 3-litre CSLs with their mighty aerodynamic wings fore and aft, and the, just in behind, number 52 is one of the many Cologne Capris there, and they do still look crisp and marvellous. And the levels of preparation just fantastic in these Peter Auto series.
The man to beat, I think, will be Max Guenard. I will get the thumbs up. Thank you very much. Max won this race a couple of years, back in 2022 and 2021 as well. We've had 3 races in this series already this year in the Peter Auto Heritage Touring Cup. And at Barcelona, start of the season, Sebastian Glazer won from David and Olivier Hart, the father and son pair from Holland with Max Guenard, the man from the big Richard Mille watch family. He came third in the first race, and then we had 2 races at Spa in appalling conditions, and Olivier Hart was going to drive with Father David in that race. David decided to let Olivier do all the work, and the young man went on to win the race from Guenard and Glazer. And then in the second Spa race, Guenard had his first win of the season in this category, although he's going to be very quick a bit later in another car with the Hart second and Glazer third. So they're the ones we're watching for. And all lined up on the grid here, this magnificent circuit, home to the French Grand Prix for a number of years, and also a one-off Swiss Grand Prix, and also the home to some magnificent side-by-side racing. This is a marvellous facility because while it's got heritage, it's also got a very modern pits block, and we sit in part of that today as the sun, Bruce, comes out.
It's the age of gold, as I said, but also I feel remiss in that I haven't mentioned further back on the grid, they're rather older, the glorious little Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GTAs. And don't forget that Toyn Hazeman's won the European Championship in one in 1970, and Escorts too very much in the mix. So a real conglomeration of cars looking fantastic. Some of the older Capris a little bit further back, but this is a race that I always look forward to on the Peter also Classic agenda, and you can see why. The cars look magnificent, and 1 hour of racing, and the sun's gone in again, but it will come out. We've had a little scattering and smattering of rain yesterday, then it suddenly came down very heavily, and then it went again. So today, though, is due to be dry the whole way through, which is great.
You say that, Bruce. I just had a little trot out around the paddock a few minutes ago, and it started to rain very, very briefly, and then it's gone in again. The car there, previously raced by Thierry Boutsen, well-known Grand Prix winner, of course, in period.
Well, they're the Alfa Romeos I was talking about, and the BMW we're looking at was one of the ones I first saw racing in the fabulous Spa 24 Hours, a race that's going from strength to strength. Now it's for GT3 cars, but at the time it was a real mixture of all classes, and the 635s, and then eventually the Ford Sierra Cosworth really used to duke it out on that brilliant circuit in the Ardennes. Come rain or shine, and let's face it, at Spa you get both.
So preparations being made. Very wide pit lane here as well, so that makes it easier. Will be a pit stop in this race. The France brothers in their Escort, very nice Escort with the wide arches look. Yeah,
very much. It's a one-driver race, even though there's a pit stop. About half a dozen of the cars, maybe marginally more, doing them. One of the drivers who'll be taking the second half of the race will be Nick Padmore, historic racing expert, but his car started by Jean-Luc Rion, number 6. He's right down on the final row of a 37-car grid, so that's obviously had a little bit of a problem. That's one of the Group A cars, so it doesn't have quite as much punch as these cars, because let's face it, 73, 74, the Capri, the Fords and the BMWs were really having an arms race, and then they both decided to pull out because of the fuel crisis in 73. Costs needed to be cut in the motor companies, and the cars went into the hands of privateers. Then they were racing them for the next few years, the BMW CSLs and the RS 3100 or RS 2600 Capris.
There was a real arms race going on between Ford and BMW for that championship, paying the drivers a lot of money back then as well, and big names.
Well, it must have been, because Jackie Stewart races a Ford Works driver, but Hans Stuck, Jochen Mass, and then likewise, in fact, Stuck did BMW, and you know, there were big names in there. Jody Scheckter got to play, and all sorts of others. The
late Jerry Birrell, who might have made it into the Tyrrell Formula One team. He raced one of these at Le Mans. The Capris did race at Le Mans. But here that we see this circuit, Bruce, as you say, the elevation change is massive that people don't realise.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of drivers who actually came in and joined us in the booth yesterday on their first or second visit, and we were even talking to people in our hotel who've come here for the first time, and they just love what they can see. But you have to walk a circuit to really understand how the land changes, and here you get even the start-finish straight is seldom flat. You go into this wonderful sweeping first corner, and just as you think you've got all the way around that, you've got to flick up the slope and then go through an S's, and you're doubling down to the right, and shortly you'll see the cars drop to the point at which in 1976, 4 years after the circuit was opened, they added an extension to give it extra mileage. And
it's only about 2 miles originally, or even less than that.
But it's a circuit of flow, Andrew. That's the beauty of it.
And compression and blind brows and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the drivers say that there's precious little place to actually relax on the lap because of all these blind brows. You're always slightly aware into the a distance into the race. There might be something having spun over the crest, so you're just constantly working. But it's the flow the drivers talk about. Yeah. This is the hairpin, the parabolique, and you turn in and it's relatively level. In fact, you're dropping downhill, then suddenly it flicks up to the right, and the faster drivers say you can throw the car in, and effectively the uphill slope will cradle your car and get it round the corner. It's
a great way to see the greenery here. We are in the Burgundy area of France, quite close to Switzerland. In fact, when we arrived, we came from Geneva to get here.
Yeah, past quite a lot of the vineyards, and from here going south, you look down the classic names of the French wine list, and they're all there.
And Dijon is considered the culinary centre of France, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, one car further down the field, a lot of people might look out for. It's not going to be at the front end. It's just coming to shot now. Jaguar XJS. We were due one of those at Spa-Francorchamps. Didn't make it, but that's been brought here by Tony Fouin, French racer. And I had friends who followed the XJSs all around Europe because they just loved Jaguars, and they were great days too.
But saw them racing at Donington recently, a couple, and actually won a race with Alex Brundle in it.
Well, it's just great to see them out, and great to see these cars here and now. 2 by 2 they come, 37 cars in all, 1 hour of racing, pit stop in the middle point of the race. And for those driving solo, they stay on board, but for those with pairs, they will have the driver change. But some of the classic race liveries in there, and a driver we hope to get up later, Gabby von Oppenheim, just going through shot in her BMW 2002 Ti. So older, smaller, but they all had a place on the stage.
There's a guy, that was a famous British touring car racer, Vince Woodman. That was his company that was on the side of that car. Vince must have raced that car.
I love the way they have the classic liveries as well. And you don't only remember what it does to me. You're not just looking at the works liveries, it's the privateers too. And don't forget they were right. Safety car peels off through the hole in the wall effectively. So 2 by 2 they can't start until the lights go from red to green. And the sound of these cars so evocative. Wait to the hard bark of acceleration. And there it is. 2 Capris at the front, the Hermitite car on the outside of the front row. That's Armand Miel.
We've got a lock up there down the inside of the factory liveried BMW. So Grenard is in the lead from Miel, and then Emil Breitmeier from Germany, and then is a cameraman,
Michael Kammerman.
Yeah, and he is the reigning champion in this category. Had a very good season last year in his CSL. And then the 2 Shimama brothers from Switzerland, although mainly from Cincinnati more recently.
Yes.
And they are 5th and 6th. And Shimama won this race last year here at Dijon.
Just loving the opening. Those 2 Capris still in grid formation at the front, but certainly being pushed very, very hard indeed by Emil Breitmeier in that white and BMW Motorsport blue, but neat and tidy through the first 2/3 of the lap. Over the crest they go into the Courbe des Gourgeols, but immediately the gradient changes and starts to fall away to this fabulous, fabulous final corner, the Virage de la Petite Combe that feeds into Courbe de Pouas. Oh dear, one of the escorts that doesn't appear to have the traction required. So 164 appears to be over and out. That's Jean-Marc Merlin, he's out later in a Ford Falcon. He's a huge racing aficionado, but that would be disappointing. Because, of course, those escorts wouldn't be fighting at the front with the CSLs and the Cologne Capris, but they'd have other escorts to fight with. So 1 down, 36 to go.
We got brothers in this, we got fathers and sons. So it was very much a family affair. But so in the lead, Max Guenard, we'll see later out in a Lola with the DFV engine in, and his father is in 7th place, Dominic Guenard.
Right, Christophe Van Riet at the end of the opening lap, still top in Group A. He's gained a couple of positions, and there was a BMW CSL 635 CSI going rather nicely as well, which I think the Adrian's car's got up to 20th. Position, so that's starting to pick off some of the more powerful older cars. But look, this first 3 really starting to see Emil Breitmeier in the best of the BMWs starting to get a little bit closer. So it's still grid formation. The Nigrin sponsor car, Maxime Guenard, the Hermitite livery car tucked in behind of Armand Miel, and then Emil Breitmeier, and he does have a toy box full of just the most fantastic cars to come and race. Again, the flow of this circuit, it just drops. This is the penultimate corner, going into the compression now.
Yeah.
Wait, we had cars spinning at this very point yesterday. There is space on the outside to go, but we had some good avoidances. But then immediately you're starting to buck up and go onto the start-finish straight. You can't see the flag gantry until you get to about this point. They reckon about garage number 1, number 2, can you see, up the straight.
Yeah, we had somebody in that gravel who was leading the race yesterday who dropped it in there in a sudden shower of rain, but they had to red flag the race. They went back a lap and he was still the winner. He had managed to just about get it out of the gravel, Olivier.
Just had forward motion.
Yeah. So, but Grenadier Ross Hyatt is up in 9th place.
Yeah, he's gained a position, picking his way, eking his way forward. And a lot of these drivers, remember, are racing in quite a few other races and quite a few other sorts of cars, but they're in that lucky position. But to me, this circuit, watching one car at a time is beguiling enough. But watching 3 or 4, and the car in 4th place is just having a little consider. That's Michael Kammerman, just trying to get towards the tail of that grouping. But certainly the quickest car there, I reckon, is Emil Breitmeyer, getting a little bit blocked by the Capris, but they have every right to be there. They qualified in front. In fact, as I say that, it suddenly looks a bit more forms coming from Armand Miel, settling in on the 3rd lap to see what he can do about the Niggerin-sponsored Capri right in front of him.
But we've very much got what happened in period, a big battle between the Capris and the BMWs, the Cologne Capris and the Batmobile BMWs.
Yeah, the Capris never had such extravagant wings as the BMWs, and the BMWs you could never buy a road car like. Right, the one in 4th place, I said Kammerman was coming. He's got a fabulous punt out of that final corner. 3 abreast, why not? It's go for it. Well, the Hermitite car is my fault. I said that Armand Miel was picking up the pace. He's suddenly gone from 2nd back to, is it 3rd, is it 4th? Back in 2nd. How did he do that? So he had more grunt at the end of the straight. BMW seemed to corner rather better through that wonderful swooping final corner.
Maybe a bit braver on the brakes as well, down into that tricky right-hander. Guinart leading from Miel, Breitmeyer, Kammerman, and then the 2 Shimama brothers.
Breitmeyer is suddenly looking right on the ragged edge there, but he's managed to bring it back in as he holds on to 3rd place. He wants more than that, but definitely the story, the scene has been complicated, if you will, by the arrival of Kammerman on the tail of that grouping, and this is all really good news for Maxime Guénard. It's going to give him just that little bit of a breathing space he requires, but he's still got, we've only got through 5 minutes, another 55 to go.
And in the Group A category, that Mustang of Christophe Van Riet is leading that. He's down in 15th spot, but he's well ahead of the rest of the Group A cars. That unusual Mustang in the Belgian tobacco colours.
Yes, in the history of Mustang, it was the least Mustang-y looking car.
It certainly was.
In so many ways, it was squat.
Yes.
Didn't have the long bonnet that sort of marks out the predecessors. That would change, of course, but it had a 5-litre lump.
Yes, but I think Ford have got an electric car called a Mustang.
They do.
It certainly doesn't look like the Mustangs that I remember.
No, quite. It's sort of rather stretching the point. Right, we're coming up to lapping, so I don't know why we have a car quite so far back. Someone must have had a problem. It's one of the 635 CSIs. That could be Jean Mille.
Yes.
Yes, right at the back of the pack, 36. So we've just lost Jean-Marc Merlin, but everyone else is still running. So this is where, when you've got a tight pack of cars, this is where someone can steal an advantage. Already she's backed out of it and gone through, but...
She had a bit of a shunt yesterday, didn't she, in another car?
Yeah. Yeah. But Maxime Guénard's just got that margin of around a second that's just giving him breathing space. And right now, really the story, I guess, is that Emil Breitmeyer is needing to start to wide it up a little bit, see if he can really attack. Get onto the tail of Armand Mil's.
And the front two, they're good mates as well. Maxime Guénard and Armand Miel. Their fathers both started the Richard Mille Watch Company. So
handy, isn't it?
They've known each other for a long time. Well, they've known each other since they were kids, you know.
Right, quite a few. One thing that's been absolutely clear, the corner we've just been looking at is where drivers get pinged. They're being noticed all the time for exceeding track limits. That's
we had a lot of that yesterday, didn't we?
And they're getting their first warnings now.
I just had a quick lap from Kammerman. Kammerman's put in the fastest lap of the race thus far. And maybe it's a lot of flames coming out the lead car. There is the 57 Capri.
Yeah.
That's being lapped, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's run by Schmitzkurt from Jürgen Westphal, and it just looks so bland in comparison. It's before the wings started sprouting, so it's a 70 or 71 car. These are 73, 74 cars. So it's amazing the transformation of this car we're looking at now. Same car as theirs, but clearly not quite as
like a road car, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And
Mark 1 Capri looking crisp, neat, but then suddenly the versions with wings come through, and that's a very different game.
Another 200 horsepower as well.
Yeah, exactly. That was Yves Skamama picking his way through in 5th place, but the first 4, they've made their break, but every now and again Kammerman sort of closes up and then seems to fall away a little bit. There he is, Kammerman going down the hill in 4th place through that penultimate corner, down the slope. Wonderful backdrop, all the trees.
Yeah, we're, I suppose, about 10 kilometres away from the main town of Dijon with its cathedral, which we went to look at briefly yesterday evening. And so we're in the little village of Prenois, in effect, although it's grown a lot since I was here back in the days when they had Grand Prix here.
Yeah, big enough, we discovered last night, even to have its own mini golf course as we drove off to a reception.
Yes, we didn't stop to play.
We didn't,
no.
Which is a big shame. I was champing at the bit.
Ah, well.
Right, just remember this is a 1-hour race, but that lead quartet have made their break. They've got a margin of about 7 or 8 seconds over the best of the rest, which is Yves Skamama. Then his brother Philippe Skamama's another 3 or 4 seconds behind. It's great, the Skamama brothers, one's in a Capri, one's in a BMW, very much taking the nature of this race to their heart. Right, it's a question of how these cars get through the back markers now. Little BMW 2002 TII being picked off at the Parabolique hairpin, and by into being the race leader, Maxime Guinard goes through
Yellow
first.
flag,
Waved yellow flag. What's over the crest? SC, safety car. Oh, full course yellow. Okay, I was trying to read from a distance. They've spotted good marshalling there, very clear. I'll have a quick whiz down the screen.
Yeah.
We've got the Behrens BMW has come to a halt. That's car number 44, which is Catherine Behrens, who went very well at Spa-Francorchamps. That's another BMW 2002 TII. Right, full course yellow. Everybody has to move down to a set speed.
Yes, they don't all close up.
Yeah, so it's not like a safety car where the person at the front loses all the advantage they've gained. But the signalling all around the circuit, lights flashing on the gantries, marshals waving their flags, making it absolutely clear. Full course yellow, and
it's all about.
As soon as it goes green, I'll let you know, and the marshals will let the drivers know, and they will go back to full racing speed.
They'll probably have a little sticker on their dash telling them what revs they should be doing in this, which will be equivalent to, is it 70 k's?
Normally 80.
80, yes.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many things to think of, and there's a tight. Right, in the Group A battle, the Jaguar's moved up to 2nd place in class. There it goes through the shot. Yeah. Next car behind Tony Phil will be the Rion car. So the BMW 635 CSI that started at the back, that Nick Padmore will take to the finish, has made good ground. So
he could possibly close up on the Mustang for the Group A victory.
Yeah, Jean-Louis Rion doing a tidy job.
He was the guy that really got Nick into racing classic historic single-seaters. He gave him his first chance in a single-seater, yes. And been a very good friend to Nick, who'd gone on to be, of course, historic Formula 1 champion after 3 or even 4 years. And now races mainly for a German team called Chrome Cars, and races they have a lot of very good JPS Lotuses.
Still almost the ultimate race livery. It just stands the test of time. But I must say, every time I look at the sharp BMW Motorsport livery, white with the coloured stripes, they still look fab.
We did have BMW JPS colours racing in
Australia, yeah. Who rode that? Jim Richards?
Yeah, or Frank Gardner's team, I think.
Well, the Bathurst race still going, and it's now augmented. You have the 12-hour race at Bathurst, which is almost the bigger event now. That's an international GT race, but you know, those classic Ford versus Holden battles. And the Group A cars coming down from Europe, including the Jaguar XJSs, etc., you know, really augmenting the scene. And there, unfortunately, for Katrin Behrens, is her car being just towed out of the way. But actually, for a circuit that still has such a good historic nature, there's plenty of space beyond the circuit without it feeling bland in the way that, remember when the Nürburgring was relaunched in the mid-80s, everyone thought, you need binoculars to see the car, said the crews, because they seem so far away. But this very much is as it was, and I just think this circuit is fantastic. Dijon-Prenois, magical place.
One of the big race apparel companies, Stand 21, is also based in Dijon. We actually went past our factory this morning on the way in, and they're celebrating 50 years in the business.
Yeah, quite remarkable, and you know, a global spread. So done well. Green flag, you can hear the engine notes picking up. The escorts are diving away. The car in 5th place, running around there. That's Yves Scamama, the green and white Capri, and then his brothers behind in the sort of yellowy green BMW CSL, running around the outside.
Yeah, he's got to pick off a couple of back markers. Had Philippe.
And what we saw yesterday in a couple of races, particularly the last race of the day, was the driver at the front obviously has an advantage when a period comes to an end, but Jonathan Mitchell, absolutely, every time there's a restart, gained handfuls of second. He was right aware. And I do think, Andrew, at this circuit where you can't see the start-finish straight as you come out of the final corner, drivers further back can so easily get caught napping, but you can't overtake the car ahead of you till the start-finish line, so they can really get caught out, can't they? Having to bide their time.
Yeah, definitely concur with that. Now we've got a bit of a challenge, haven't we, from Miel? No, he's got held up by back markers. No, actually, Guenard's got away a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, Guenard's got away a little bit. So before we had the full course yellow, it was about a second's advantage. He's got it out to 1.5, but I think it'd be a little bit more. He's in the Negrin colour. The second place car is the gold, red, white and black Hermitite livery.
Well, a BMW 2002 really diving down the inside there. It was a bit of an audacious move.
Yeah, it's not really what was in the script there, was it, at all? So wave flags around the circuit. Those are blue flags, meaning a faster car coming through. Pay attention. Of course, any flag you see, if it's waved, the emphasis is greater than if it was held still. So with alacrity, let the quicker cars through.
With the good marshals, you can see the urgency, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly yellows as well. Just going past us, nice little yellow Alpha. There's a second touring car race coming up, which has got a lot more Alphas in it, which will be at the front in that particular category. Yeah,
that was Patrick Wilwert's car, lovely little GT.
Oh, that's a nice black and white livery look. 74 car of Cameraman.
Yeah, still running in 4th place.
Yeah, as I say, he was the champion in this category last year.
Yep, still track warning limits. Actually, turn 5 is being picked out as well. Turn 8 is the final corner, where you can see them going into that compression and just lacking the grip, but they don't want to come off the power, so they run wide. Turn 5 earlier in the lap, it's actually the Parabolique, which is that hairpin. Look, this is the corner. This is the Parabolique.
The pit window starts when the race is 25 minutes old, so we've got a little way to go yet. 10 minutes or so.
Well,
that's a terrific.
How do you like your BMW CSLs? Not classic, thank goodness, but that got very tight indeed. And again, that's a great corner. You come away from Parabolique, you climb so super steeply, then you flatten out, then you turn left, then you come to this point. We're diving down the hill to the penultimate corner, Virage.
That was very much the Ford factory colours.
Absolutely.
You've got the BMW factory colours with the blue and red stripes sweeping down the bodywork. Just right on cue, we see that full house BMW livery, but Ford were a little bit more mooted with their colour scheme. But
well, they had one colour to display. It was the Ford Motorsport Blue, and it put it against white, and it stood the test of time. The blue oval, of course.
Blue oval.
Look at the flow of this circuit. Of course, don't forget, any TV shot will compress the image, and in terms of vertical, you walk around it, your cars will tell you there are hills there.
Yeah, you walk up there, you'll be puffing a little bit. Well, you will if you're me.
Only a little bit.
Going out only a little bit. So the gap now a second. These two Swiss versus French, but big mates.
Yeah, the yellowy green, I suppose you call it lime green BMW going up the slope, that's Philippe Simama. Dominique Guénard is just tucked in behind in his black BMW Motorsport livery car. But they've got traffic up ahead, including that Group A class Jaguar XJS that's just holding its point in the middle of the track. That will actually... No, managed to get past. It was Dominique Guénard who's being a little bit delayed, but his brother Maxime Guénard leading the race. But the margin, 1.5 seconds. It's not really going out particularly. A 10th here, a 10th there, but he's worked the traffic slightly better. As let's face it, the race leader normally has the advantage.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He's just getting a little bit better through the carving through the traffic, and there is quite a lot of that here, and a huge grid of cars, of course.
Right,
the flames coming out of that Capri.
Yeah, that's Yves Scamama, 5th place overall, car number 52. So it's almost a mimic, just a green version of the Ford Motorsport colours.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not the Ford Motorsport colours, but you know what I'm trying to say. Right, through the wonderful sweepers. And when you start to get out of line through the first few corners at Dijon-Prenois, it's very hard to get it back. You're compromised at the second, the third, the fourth, because this point, it'd be lovely if the cameras would whip round and you see what an S it is. But then immediately, they have to start diving down the slope to the Parabolique, which is the Bretel, which is the point where you're turning downhill right here. And then down the slope, look in the background, all the way down to the bottom, and it is the bottom before you get to the Parabolique and you double up to the right-hand side. Because
that long corner just goes on forever, that last corner.
And again, this is one of those circuits, Andrew, that's so rewarding. If you walk out around the track, and particularly in practice or testing, you could just suddenly see the dynamics of the cars and just how short some of the straights are between one corner and the next one. So if you're on the wrong line, trying to get across the right line isn't always going to happen.
Some more lappery coming up, I think, because they're really setting a great pace on the fastest lap so far.
What has suddenly happened, Andrew, is the race leader's doubled. So the race leader, Maxime Guénard, has managed to work the traffic better, or more to the point, maybe Armand Miel in the Hermitite livery Capri has been compromised. But in turn, Armand Miel in second has stretched out to 1 and a bit seconds clear of the best of the BMWs, Emil Breitmeier's car.
Yeah, they're lapping in 1:25.1 is the fastest lap by Cameraman, still there in fourth. He must have put in one Banzai lap, but he's not making much progress. Chasing the German driver, Emil Breitmeier, has the Shimama brothers behind him, and then the leader's father is in 7th place. One in the Capri, one in the BMW. Ross Hyatt still in 10th. And
yeah, it hasn't been a lot of change. Christophe Van Riet went from 16th to 15th. He's now in 14th, but he's 6 seconds down on...
We had Rion, of course, that Nick Padmore is going to drive with, making quite a bit of progress, I think. He's still not on the first page of the timing screen, though.
Still that climb. You can see the cars as the slope suddenly sort of eases off a bit. You often see the tails of the cars coming around a bit. Now look at these two cars fighting out. Olivier Breitmeier in his BMW, but then the CSI, not all the 635 CSIs are in Group A. This is one of the earlier ones, and so it doesn't have the big extravagant wings of the CSL. But you can see the bloodline. It's very, very clear. And of course, the CSLs had that little wing on the roof as well. And when you bought your road car, they didn't have those wings, but the kit was ready for you in the boot should you want to put it on. That was a clever little ruse from BMW Motorsport, because it was, in those days of having to homologate your car,
you had to build it.
You had to build. I think 50 it was for.
Like that. Remember, these cars all got stick shifts. It's the old-fashioned. These are old-fashioned. You know, you miss a gear and you can rev an engine.
Well, you know what I love about these cars is the sheer simplicity. You look inside the roll cage. There is a driver's seat, 3 standard pedals, and a gear lever and a steering wheel.
A wheel.
Yeah, no buttons.
No buttons.
The less we talk about our hire car, Andrew, the better. And the complexity of it all, leaving us quite baffled. Right, still Michael Kammerman pressing around, still the holder of the fastest lap of the race, but he's falling away with every lap, because the first 2 laps, we said he was the quickest driver, and he caught onto the tail of that lead trio, and then thereafter, maybe he's lost out in traffic, but certainly hasn't managed to keep that pace going.
That leads up to 3 seconds now, Bruce, if you look, and then 3 seconds back to Breitmeier.
I think there was one particularly good lap. It went from 1.5 seconds between Maxime Guénard in his Capri and Armand Miel in his, and then So, you know, lead doubled from 1.5 to 3 seconds, and it's just sat there. But as you can see, every time you look at the cars, they're coming across tail enders. I mean, 37 cars is a lot to fit around here, and in fact, we were hearing yesterday the grid is good for 55 cars, and that's a record number you can put on the grid here. We've got some fantastic thick fields of cars here, fully occupied, but we are not complaining. And when you walk around the paddock, when you come to the Peter Auto Classic events, the paddock is absolutely open. People are ready to talk to you. It's such a friendly and spectator focused event.
And the graphics are brilliant, because so where every car is, there's the name of the person. I obviously do this at Goodwood as well, but in cars, they tend to group cars together very nicely, not all spread about. You can look at all the cars in one race. Or
they're all in open-fronted tents, so you can get really good line of sight. And it is when you get the grouping of cars, and you know, you are looking at something you could have been looking at, you know, according to age of championship 40, 50, 60 years ago. And
we are going to get a magnificent display of sort of 90s, 80s Grand Prix cars, and with DFV engines into. We'll see those a little bit later.
And we've got the historic Grand Prix association with their cars. So those are cars from the very late 30s through to the early to mid 1960s. Great to have those. So we have some single seaters this weekend on the agenda. And it's you know, for the fans here, you know, it will stir the memories.
Yeah, that's a guest race, is it?
Yeah, guest race on the agenda.
So Van Riet continues to lead in the Mustang in Group A, but actually the lead has been pegged back a little bit now by Armand Miel.
Yeah, I really feel the flow is simply down. They're running at fairly equal pace. Yes. It's simply down to traffic. But and one thing that's just so enjoyable, we were talking about this for the last few days and at Spa-Francorchamps a couple of weekends ago, it's just simply the growth of historic racing.
Yes.
And, you know, it's not, you do need to sort of curate what you want. So you range a championship, and the cars will come out, but you've got to pick the ones that people want to race. And so obviously people would always want to race Cologne Capris and BMW CSLs, Escort RS 1600s, et al, and particularly Alfa Romeo GTAs as well. You know, so you gather them together, but you've got to make the environment right for the drivers and the teams. But the teams have grown and grown and grown, and the global spread. I mean, this is all being streamed also not just through the Peter Auto website, but also on the Goodwood networks. And of course, the Goodwood Motorsport events have grown and grown over sort of about the past 25 years, and it's now got a global audience. Whenever, you know, we're streaming stuff from the Goodwood Revival, you see people commenting from Singapore, from Argentina,
Australia.
Yeah, and you think, shouldn't you be asleep in the middle of the night? But no, they're watching it.
The Peter Auto organisation running this series and this race today also, of course, run the Tour de France Auto, but they run the Le Mans Classic. That's that's the granddaddy event for them. Coming up soon, and an event well worth attending, because the main Le Mans race is coming up next weekend. But the Le Mans Classic is interesting because they do race all through the night, but it's not one race. They stop. So there's a number of support races, and then there's the main 6 plateaus or 6 groups, which are all different age groups.
And they cycle through the 24 hours.
They will run 3 times.
Right, pit window is open.
It is, indeed.
And that's a Hyatt change. So was that Ross that was Ross that started going over to Nick now.
Yes.
So decided to give Nick the most time. Ross will be out in other races as well, so he's being a very good father there. But again, that pit window is open for 10 minutes from when you've got 35 minutes left, therefore after 25 minutes through to 35 minutes.
Ross's company is big in the marine salvage business. They lift boats off the ocean bed. It's one of the things they do. They also check a lot of oil runs through oceans obviously in pipes, and they have a system of drones that checks all that. I was telling him about it yesterday, but the lifting the sunk ships is quite a big business, a very interesting salvage business. But he's got 2 sons at both races, only one here today.
Yeah, and that's Nick, who's just settling in.
Yeah, Ross has been on the board of the British Racing Drivers Club, and as I said, a couple of class wins at Le Mans over the years. There's that Mustang leading Group A, Van Vliet.
Yeah, he's gained another position, but that's only because the Hyatt car has come in, so he's running effectively in 14th place. So, but he's still always having that buffer about 6 cars.
But the other Group A car, the Rion car that Nick's going to take over, Nick Padmore, has moved up a lot. It's 19th overall now, so that's 2nd in Group A category. So, but certainly been harried by the Escort. So the 49 car comes in.
That's Dominique Guénard handing over to his good friend Guillaume Maé.
Yes. And he's preparing those cars. So there's an outfit called Keep Europe. As we said a few times before, they're probably preparing 20-odd cars here. But he is the son of the founder of that company.
And again, it just goes to we were talking about the level of preparation of cars in historic racing, but just the size of some of these teams. You don't just need great engineers and mechanics, you actually need a very good commercial manager to sit on top of it all.
I think we counted to Keep Europe having 5 trucks in the paddock.
Wow.
And they're based just outside Paris. Their Texaco livery, that would be a Belgian deal done by a man called John Goossens, you might remember him. And Texaco, of course, big sponsors of James Hunt when he won the World Championship, and also Barry Sheene.
Yeah.
They used to do corporate events together. Little look at the engine there. Obviously got some sort of problem in that Texaco back car. And lots of pits activity. I see the Jaguar's got its bonnet up, and then behind that is the Texaco back car.
And the Group A leaders just coming in. That's the red and white Belga liveried Mustang, which actually is quite pertinent. I was just talk about looking at the Texaco liveried BMW. So many deals were done specifically for the Spa 24 Hours.
Yes, absolutely.
And you had the Belga versus Bastos, 2 Belgian cigarette brands, and they would put their names on and colours on as many cars as they could in the hope of getting one to the finish.
I found that extraordinary because I don't think you could buy the cigarettes anywhere else. It was specifically for one country. Same as in South Africa. We had the Gunston brand. Indeed, we'll see
a lucky strike, but at least they had different colours. I mean, Belga and Bastos, they both insisted in racing red and white.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Which is strange because the Belgian flag it was obviously black, red, and yellow. But there you are. Here's a lovely shot of the Alpha.
Yeah, very, very many. A lot of those. That's Patrick Vilworth. We picked it out earlier. Actually, a yellow car always stands out a little bit. How ironic, right behind another yellow car, which is Gabby von Oppenheim's BMW 2002 Ti. But it's when you see them, again, just out of that final corner, how much they have to climb. And then eventually, just as they get to gantry, they can start seeing properly ahead. Right, Tony Fillant banging the roof of that XJS.
Frustration.
Well, he's sort of a bit blocked in by the Mustang, but still, well, that's not what's frustrating him. Clearly, a little bit of remedial work is being done. Some of the 635 CSIs from Group A coming back out onto the circuit. Car number 7, one of the early Mustangs, that's Carlo Vergele, who's been driving an array of fabulous cars here. Third generation racer.
Yeah. They're from Switzerland. Guénard and Mille. It's 2.3 seconds. And then, of course, the Shamamas now moved up to 3rd and 4th. They haven't made their pit stop. That's Christian Traber, who's won this race in 18 and 19, actually. Where's he running? There's 2 Traber brothers as well, I think.
Yeah, the car 83 just left the pits, BMW 635. That's a Group 2 version car. And that was running a little further down the order when I looked earlier. And again, the order will be a little bit jumbled at the moment until they all settle down again after the pit stops. But the bulk of the front runners have not come in. Emil Breitmeier is the highest ranked driver to come in from 5th place overall. Yeah,
Rion is handed over to Padmore, I think. He's just leaving the pits now. Ross Hyatt, as we saw, come in. Tony Seiler, we haven't mentioned, a Swiss driver with best part of 40 years experience, lot racing Lola T70s, never stopped racing, and raced at Le Mans many times, Tony Seiler, and runs a bodywork business in Switzerland. And we'll see him out later in a Lola T70.
Yeah, that's the thing. When these meetings are put together, some of the drivers are hoping that they have one race on, one race off, one race off, because the logistics otherwise, because the races, they very much come to an end, and then the next one is pretty much ready to start. So
yeah, yesterday I saw somebody running down the pits because jumped out of one car, and he was starting the next race. He had to sprint down to the marshalling area, or assembly area, I suppose you'd call it. There you are, that's number 58 car in the pit. There's a Hermite.
Yeah, but that's Armand Mill. He's yet to make a pit stop. We got a little bit obstructed by Nick Hyatt, who's obviously just a lap or so into his stint. But
again,
right, in comes
we've got this
Armand
elastic
Mill.
band, haven't we? 2 to 3 seconds between the lead pair.
If you look in the background of the shot, the entrance to the pit lane is really quite tight, and the drivers say it's not like one where you can see the pit lane open up to your right-hand side normally on a clockwise circuit. You drive along, then there's a sort of gap in the wall, so you can see it's a very sharp turn. Yes, you can see it's coming because you can see the markings of the track, but it's still quite a surprise, because effectively you look up just the line of the wall in front of the pits.
Okay, the two leaders are in now, right next to each other.
Yeah, and they should go out in that order as well. Car number 50, Maxime Guinard. He was on a 3.5 second advantage. His is the one with the Shell logo on the back wing. And the Hermitite car, of course, Tom Walkinshaw raced for a long time with Hermitite livery, and a whole host of others. And it really, such a crisp looking sort of 4-colour combination. But this is full German hippie, isn't it?
Green there with the chimney sweep. We told that story at Spa, didn't we?
We did.
That the company had been going for many years.
It was a century. They've had their century. Yeah. They do cleaning products, effectively.
Cleaning products.
But clearly very successful, because many a time, unless they give you an aide-memoire or a visual prompt like the person on the Niggerine car with a chimney sweep's hat and ladder, you often don't know what sponsors are until you go and look them up.
What they do, I mean, I know what Hermitite is. I bought it, but it doesn't actually say, does it?
No, but what is it?
Oh, it's sealants.
Yes.
Sealants. You know, sealants for engine parts and stuff like that. I presume they're still in business.
All right, Nick Padmore has got the BMW, sorry, it's Tony Fuan in the Jaguar, isn't it? Running a little bit wide. Padmore's coming up the order. Just waiting to see. The next lap we'll really get true treatment, because pit window closes in 1.5 minutes, so people can still come in on this lap. Who's still out there? Well,
47 car.
Yeah. It's the Escort.
Yeah.
Again, this happened at Spa-Francorchamps. He stayed up very late, Sesho, but now he's just dived into the pit. So, done the maths. Don't think anybody has failed to do the maths. Raphael de Bourman's made 2 pit stops. I don't know if that was a penalty, because certainly quite a few people were accruing and accumulating the warnings for exceeding track limits.
And of course, you're given a vector from coming in and out, and you've got to time it just right. If you go too soon, even by a second, you're going to get pinged with a big penalty. So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah, and the sectors,
the car, and then it's up to the drivers not to go too
fast too soon. But I mean, the sector time, the vector time is generous enough to allow for a little bit of remedial work or a little bit of inspection. You know.
Yes, that's right.
But from the lead and back out to the lead surely is Maxime Guinard. He had just remember about 3.5 seconds over. Armand Miel. Armand's in the background. You can see him dropping into the compression out of the first corner in the background in the Hermitite livery.
Same team preparing both those cars. They pitted together, but I noticed the gap has gone to 4.2 seconds. So maybe Guinard just got out of the pits that little bit quicker than his old mate Armand Miel. Kammerman in third now. The reigning champion in this series, Breitmeyer, then the Shamamas, and the 47 car will drop down the pit. I'm just trying to see, don't see Nick Padmore's name on the.
Well, it would have been.
May not have clicked over yet.
Yeah.
And we're assuming he is sometimes second driver doesn't always get to jump in the car.
No, maybe not. The first penalty I've seen, we talked before the race, you picked out the Pierre-Alain France's lovely little white, blue and slightly red Escort, but that's been noticed exceeding track limits, 10-second penalty. Still the fastest lap of the race, Michael Kammerman, 1 minute 25.1. That was on about lap 3, I think it was.
It was. It must have been a bit of a banzai lap, hadn't it?
Yeah, just as he was catching the first 3. It looked as though they were breaking away. Then he was running on his own in 4th. He closed up, a couple of times made a little bit of a move. We had the 3 abreast on the start-finish straight, remember, for second place.
Great action from these touring cars.
It's just lovely to see the sun really starting to come through properly. It was a very grey morning. I saw a little mention this morning with people in France talking about Juin Vembre. The sun may come for Le Mans.
Yeah, the Hyatts have had a problem, actually. Nick Hyatt, he's dropped to the bottom of the field, so I suggest he stopped somewhere. Took over from Dad, and
no, he's made a second pit stop. That's dropped him.
I presume that's with a problem.
Yeah. Back out on the track, so down in 34th position. He will climb, providing the car does still function, but that's a little bit of a disappointment. Group A, after those pit stops, Christophe Van Riet was leading beforehand in his Ford Mustang, the 5-litre number 23, and that is still in the lead after the pit stops. The second car in class has lost position. That's the car that we thought Padmore was getting into, the Jean-Louis Rion car number 6, which is lovely 635 CSI, but Jean-Louis is continuing on his way. The Texaco liveried 635 at a standstill. So that's another car that just had a little mechanical malady.
Well, the bonnet is up, but nobody's doing anything. So I think that's probably game over. Well,
okay, this is our race leader, Maxime Guénard.
There, wasn't he?
Pair of little Julias, and he had to suddenly go, no, you know what, I don't think the outside is an option.
Yeah.
What's happening behind? Well, the Hermesite livery car in second place now, picking off one car into the sweepers, trying to pick off the older Capri through the sweepers. He does that, but again, that would have compromised. So the gap was over 4.5 seconds on start-finish line, I think, for the driver of this car number 60, Armand Mille. That would be a little bit frustrating. But you can see the gaggle of cars up ahead. You just don't want them to be at certain points of the lap.
And he's got a lot of work to do now if he's going to catch Guénard.
Yeah. 22 minutes remaining. Suddenly, it's funny, you wait for the pit stops, they always seem to take a while to arrive, and then suddenly after that you get this acceleration.
Yeah. So the lead now widened to 5 seconds. That's the biggest we've had, and now 5.3, biggest we've had all through the race. Cameraman another 5 seconds back, and Breitmeyer quite close. So it's a bit of a battle going on for third, with Breitmeyer and Cameraman.
I must say the drive's been very good about letting the faster cars come through, but again, it's worth reiterating, the Dijon-Prenois circuit is one of fantastic flow, and as long as you can keep out the way so the fast cars can keep that flow going without compromising yourself too much, you know, it works.
Well, there's our second place car, looking absolutely magnificent in the gold and red colour scheme as he works his way through these sweeping bends at Dijon-Prenois, former French Grand Prix track. He used to have Dijon one year, and then next year would be Ricard, and that went on for about almost a decade, I think.
Yes, because Circuit Paul Ricard was the brave new world when it arrived, wasn't it?
Yes.
You think it followed on in the tracks of racing at Rouen-les-Essarts, Clermont-Ferrand, you know, very, very difficult, dangerous circuits. It suddenly had all this space and modern facilities, and still today it's fabulous. It obviously moved on enormously since then, but the comparison was quite something. I think French motorsport fans had a real treat. And
one of the longest straights in motor racing in the Mistral, of course.
Yeah, for a lot of modern racing, it has a chicane inserted about a third of the way up, or 2/3 of the way up, can't remember. But the corner at the end, just such an amazing, you know, have you got it? Have you got it? Yeah, well done. Nearly flat.
Almost track limits there. Guénard, yeah, he's really got his head down now. He's pulling away from Mille. And 19 minutes to go. So
the main change has really been that through the course of the pit stops, Michael Kammerman, who's still got the fastest lap, went ahead of Emil Breitmeyer to have the bragging rights in the BMW 3-litre CSL category, but he's 10 seconds and a little bit of small change behind Armand Mille in second place. And in turn, Armand Mille is 6.2 seconds behind the car we're looking at, the number 50 Capri, Maxime Guénard. That's the one with the Nigrin and Shell sponsorship. Out of Parabolique, up the steep climb, flattens out, and then he goes over the crest into Courbe de Gourgiol, and then immediately has to turn really, really hard to the left. But keeping the flow going is what it's all about, and particularly if you're in one of the smaller engine cars, you know, when flow is everything. Oh, a little mistake into the Parabolique background of the shot. The BMW, just trying to work out which one it was. It might have been Emil Breitmeyer. Maybe starting to run out of his brakes. Let's see, this is the one that went off, just coming into the corner. It's car 22, it is indeed Emil Breitmeyer, so maybe a loss of attention. He wasn't particularly close to anyone, so I think that was all of his own mistake, but he managed to gather it up. Or more to the point, the track probably gathered him up as it turned.
Yeah, it does. Talking of Armand Adrians in the Group A BMW 635, he's moved into second place in Group A, and I'm pretty sure that Nick Padmore didn't get number 6 car because
you'd think its progress would be great. Just seeing if it's got a problem. Yeah, the Rion car we're talking of, that number 6, BMW has third in class, but he's lost about 4 positions on that. You mentioned Tony Seiler, he went past. We mentioned Gabby von Oppenheim, she's gone past in the 2002 TI. So quite possibly a mild problem of some sort in that car. No change at the front, with the exception of Maxime Guénard, our race leader, chipping away and extending his lead. 7 seconds clear now. And likewise, Michael Kammerman in third place doesn't have any answers. He's not getting any change out of Armand Mille. In fact, he's falling away somewhat.
He's got to watch for Breitmeyer because it's only a couple of seconds behind on the 55. Alpha has done. That's Daniel Hager in his Giulietta Sprint 1969 car.
Yeah.
And this gravel is relatively forgiving, isn't it? You can drive the cars out of it if you got the technique. But right. I'm not sure he's going to.
No, we saw Olivier Hart looking at opening his door to see how deep he was, but for Hager that is quite deep. Right.
Well, it says
as the clouds clear and the sun shines, there is a dark cloud because arriving on the scene because our race leader, Maxime Guénard, under investigation for disrespecting steward's bulletin number 2. And off the top of my head, I can't tell you what that one is, and in the heat of the battle may not have the scope to find out. But so suddenly there's a potential change at the front of the race, not on the track.
Flag, and who has stopped?
Well, I think it's still the Alfa Romeo, the Hager car. They've obviously just responded to that.
That's a weird one, Stu.
Full course yellow in 20 seconds. I think it's just because it's at the first corner. It's bogged down in the gravel.
Yeah, that's what it's for. No question. I wonder what that's about.
Okay, race lead has just come down marginally to 6.9 seconds. Maxime Guénard, and there is the reason for the full course yellow.
Everybody will hold.
Not far off the track, but the rear is down.
So some 15 minutes remaining. Last quarter of the race now. Lovely shot with 144, still with problems. That's Gabby, isn't it?
No, it's the other. It's Katrin Behrens, who remember we saw her car being dragged through off the course and through a gap in the barriers, but obviously got it going enough to get it back to the pits.
Yeah, Gabby's in the escort, of course. Yeah, and look, Hans Stuck has raced that car in the past. Well, if the sign writing's to be believed, anyway.
Well, you can imagine, you know, Hans's career went from nothing to very quickly, quite a lot of something, and he was a works driver in the blink of an eye, and then moved on to Formula 1. But really, his happy hunting ground was Group C, and so many years with Porsche. So many great successes with Derek Bell, of course.
Yep. BMW Luigi, that was a top Italian team, wasn't it, back in the day?
Yeah, that's Olivier Breitmeyer's car. He started 8th, and that's running in 8th, so he's made no progress at all. But he's there or thereabouts. Not too far behind Guillaume Maillet. In fact, they had a really good battle for a while, but now it's about 5 or 6 seconds between them.
So Guénard, Mille, Kammerman, Breitmeyer, Shamama, Eve, and then Philippe, and then Ma, Breitmeyer, Traber, and Ebhard. That's the top 10, all either BMWs or Capris.
And then just outside the top 10, you've got a run of 3 escorts in a row. 47 is now, it was started by Eric Secho, who was the class leader. Guy Fabrice Mestro now at the wheel of that. And then Olivier Dusailly in 11th to 12th place. And Alain Page. So the escort would have been, you know, running slightly further back in the traditional fields of the time, the contemporary fields, but less powerful, but huge numbers, particularly on the German racing scene and the British racing scene in period. Still, the yellow flags hang. There's a little bit of breeze in the air, but yesterday got very windy. Not so much today. If I turn to look out the other angle from the commentary box, it's a combination of blue sky and light grey cloud, but the grey cloud over this race ought to shift fairly soon once they've got the Hager's Alfa Romeo out of the gravel at the first corner. It's just out of our shot on the top left-hand side. It's dead ahead as the cars get to the first corner, and the drivers then, you've only just flattened out after a gradual climb past the pits, and then immediately turn into the first corner, you're dropping away. And of course, that's the point. If you've left your braking late, you know, there is a certain amount of physics that will follow that will involve gravity and gravel.
Later in the day, we've got the Classic Touring Challenge, which is for cars earlier, up to 1966. And there's going to be lots of Minis and Mustangs and Alphas and Lotus Cortinas in that. The Lotus Cortina's actually on.
And Alfa Romeos.
And Alfa Romeos.
Oh, you did say that.
I said that.
Oh, dear.
The Jaguar, oh, dear, that's...
It had there was lots of investigation under the bonnet before it went back out, but Tony Fouin in for the second time, and and out again.
Yeah, out again.
Just a chance to give your mechanic a chance to do running inspections alongside the car.
That's what he was trying to do.
Which they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right, still full course yellow. The clock continues to count down. 12.5 minutes remain.
I'm sure they have that car out of that spot pretty smartly. But meanwhile, time for a bit of a breather. Everybody holding position. It's self-policing, this.
Yeah. And green.
And green.
Bump. This is where the drivers need to be alert, because you could work really hard, just be napping a little bit, loss of attention, and just suddenly looking as though the Belga car has been overtaken. Right, full green. So our Group A leader, Christophe Van Riet, was in 15th position. Will he be there when he crosses the start-finish line?
So we got...
No, he's lost 2 places. He was passed by Carlo Vogler and Hervé Ordioni. So Capri and an Escort went past him, so caught napping.
We got this bit of a mystery, though, haven't we, over the leader?
Yeah, we do. This disrespect stewards 2.
That's not track limits.
No.
It's something else.
Yeah, if it was track limits, they will tell you it's track limits, but I'm afraid in the heat of battle we don't have time. So Christophe Van Riet, well, he was sitting with about a 6-place advantage in Group A. He's lost several.
Yeah.
Armand Adrian's about 4 positions further back, but of course, suddenly it's busy. Maybe there's a slight problem. Maybe he couldn't accelerate. Another car's starting to catch, because the one thing that the Mustang did not lack with its 5-litre V8 was plenty of grunt. But suddenly lots of cars that wouldn't have the power, like the Escorts and the Alfa Romeo, are catching and passing him.
Yeah, I think it's got a problem.
I think it's probably got a misfire of some sort.
We are. Let's watch this Alfa now, chasing. And the Alfa, he swoops past him, no problem at all.
And that's a car he already had a lap advantage on, so clearly his performance has fallen away. Right up front, Maxime Guénard, 8.6 seconds to good, so he's responded very nicely to the restart. Still that question mark. Oh dear, and another driver is under investigation. That's a driver of car number 74, which is
that's
Michael Kammerman car, the BMW in 3rd place overall, minimum pit stop time infringement. So it's suddenly looking as though Armand Miel, running in 2nd place, 8 and a bit seconds down, could be in the pound seats in this one.
Yep, but that some team man is miscalculated there, I think. Can't really blame the drivers for that. They were waved away.
Yeah.
And I suggest he was waved away too quickly.
But suddenly it's incredibly close between Michael Kammerman and Emil Breitmeier. 3rd and 4th, Kammerman ahead of Breitmeier. But before the pit stops, it's Breitmeier ahead of Kammerman. They're covered by half a second at the moment. But Breitmeier, well, he won't know that there's a potential problem for the car in front of him. He'll just want to overtake it. At this point in the race, at this fantastic Dijon-Prenois circuit, he's going to get that thing called racing coming up. Door handle to door handle.
Yeah, so the only British interest in this race now is Nick Hyatt. He's circulating still, but he's 4 laps down, so they've had their 2 pit stops. Obviously sorted some problem, and yeah, no, he's zapping very nicely at the moment, but you know, clearly detected something not right. Armand Miel, 2nd place in the Hermotite Capri, one of the RS 3100 Cologne Capris. We don't know, of course, if the leader is aware that there's maybe a penalty against him, but if it's a 10-second penalty, he could really push on now and take the penalty and still win, of course.
Well, he's 9 seconds down at the moment, so he's actually potentially the race winner at the moment. But we don't know what the penalty will be, if indeed it will be issued. It's under investigation.
Yeah.
Still, it's just fantastic seeing these Cologne Capris and the BMW CSLs. And again, almost any historic car looks great. But this is the battle for third place overall. Michael Cameron with potential punishment hanging over him like a sword of Damocles. And Emil Breitmeyer. Oh, they just look fantastic. But where do they look at their very greatest? Jumping at the Nürburgring, of course, at the various points.
Fantastic picture of
Stuckey.
Yeah, and it was taken by a guy called John Dunbar, actually.
Ah, yeah. Well, I used to get the Ford Motorsport calendars because my father worked for Ford, and it was full of Ford Cologne Capris doing precisely the same.
Of course it was.
Anything you can do, BMW, we will give it a go. And of course, in those days, they were delighted. They were pitching it in front of BMW and with BMW because on the road, the BMW was a far more expensive car.
Yes.
So the Capri versus the BMW, as they said, well, if we can race against a car that's costing £6,000, the road car at the time, which was a lot of money back then, well, we're getting reflected glory.
Yeah, it is, because BMW has always been considered a prestige brand.
Okay.
And, sadly, the Belga Mustang is pushed away.
It's out. We spotted the problem. So Christophe Van Riet, that had been running about 14th position, suddenly was falling back.
He's in Group A, so he'll be desperately disappointed.
So Armand Adrians, with 7 minutes remaining, is suddenly in the class lead in his BMW 635 CSI in 20th position overall. Next is Jean-Louis Riant, also in a 635 CSI, who is about another 20 seconds back or so. So it looks like first and second in Group A are fairly much settled at this point in the race. How about at the top of the field? Well, Maxime Guinard, 9 seconds clear. It's now down to 8 seconds. That's surely waved yellow flags. Hold on, what's going on? Turn 4, so that's the compression as you drop down into Bretel.
Anybody out deep in the gravel there? Can't see anyone from this shot.
No, a quick flip. Car number 8 is stopped at turn 4, out of sight. That's another BMW 2002. That's Michel Velter. Okay, didn't get to pick that up, but I think that's a fairly quick...
I think it's obviously way off, isn't it?
Yeah. Might have even driven onto the access road, the loop, the old loop, effectively. Right, the clock is counting down, and you sort of feel, well, hold on a second. Remember that gap was 8 or 9 seconds between first and second. It's now listed as 17 seconds. Armand Miel has dropped back an enormous amount. Now, was that reacting to yellow flags and those in front reacting so he couldn't overtake? But that's an awful chunk of time. I wouldn't either.
It's a huge chunk of time.
As he had a time penalty added to him. Could have added 10 seconds, but I haven't seen that. The little ticker at the bottom of the screen does move through quite fast.
Yes. Well, there Miel's car.
We need to keep
got a problem.
Need to keep an eye on it. Look, its sector times are absolutely fine. Its timing split, so I can't answer that question to you. Still yellow flag though, so no overtaking, but you can run at nigh on full pace with caution.
There's the 8 being towed away to safety.
Okay, that's effectively going on the linking road. Once the loop was added to 76, the old circuit is just a linking road because you drop into La Bretelle, but effectively just go through a squiggle and then up the climb rather than going to the drop down to Parabolique. Another car, is that the Belga? No, it's not. There's a 635 CSI in the background being pushed into the pit lane as well. So suddenly these cars
they are
not getting to the end of an hour.
50 years old, aren't they?
Yeah. Sorry, you can become distracted as the battle heats up. Emil Breitmeyer, Michael Kammerman, all but side by side. Kammerman just in front, but the car that started ahead of him on the grid, car number 22, Emil Breitmeyer was ahead on the start finish line, and Michael Kammerman got back into third place as they dived into first corner.
Watching Miel there, I don't think he's going at full pace. Look at the sector times.
Well, just remember he lost about 10 seconds in the or 8 or 9 seconds in the space of one lap. While
sectors look all right, actually.
Yeah, no, the sections look absolutely fine.
Visually, he looked a bit slower there. Anyway, it'll all unravel, won't it, in the next 3 or 4 minutes?
Lights flashing for the car in third place there. That's Michael Kammerman. Emil Breitmeyer in 22, tucked in behind. cannot afford to lose any momentum. This battle will go all the way to the finish. Right, through the drop down into Virage de la Petite Combe, and they continue to drop down to this corner.
That's the battle of the race, isn't it, here?
It is, right now. Final corner of the lap. They still drop, they get to the apex. This is the point. Will they keep all their wheels inside the white line? Yeah, getting your left-hand wheels around the outside of that line is fine. All 4 track limits. You get a number of warnings, then you get the penalties. One penalty just being issued is to car 74, which is Michael Kammerman. There he is in 3rd place on the track. He's got a 3-second penalty for being just under the minimum pit stop time. He has got to press on because he's got 3 minutes to gain probably 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. Don't think he can do that. Surely Breitmeier just has to sit there. And
no radio communication, of course, of these cars. If they got the right pit equipment on the pit board, they could tell him that. But whether he'll understand is another matter.
Right, Breitmeier actually looks slightly quicker in the BMW Motorsport livery car, but he's decided to just try and overtake. If only he knew that he doesn't need the car in front is actually about 2.5 seconds behind him with its 3-second penalty.
Just sliding the tail out as he came out of that corner. Sheets of flame, and he goes really wide and almost goes. Didn't go off the course, but is really pushing as hard as he can. He's desperate to try and get by now. He's got a lap and a half to do it, I suppose. And again, traffic comes into play.
Well, Kammerman was determined to get the inside line, and that's not always going to be offered up by someone who's trying to keep out the way, but the escort moves to one side. Kammerman goes through, but the clock is counting down. 1 minute and 40 seconds or so, and the gap between the pair of them is half a second. It's still Kammerman ahead of Breitmeier, but they are catching. Armand is now 20 seconds behind the race leader, even though his split times have been good. In fact, he just said his best ever second split time.
Yeah, that's it's strange, isn't it? But the battle is for 3rd place now, Kammerman and Breitmeier.
I really am thinking that Armand has had a 10-second penalty applied to him. I thought he was the one of the top 2. Remember, Maxime Guinard, our race leader, is the one under investigation for an infraction, Stewart's Bulletin number 2. And at the time, we knew Michael Kammerman in 3rd position had a potential penalty, but our race leader, here he is now.
Still carving his way through the field in the Capri with the swirly green stripes on it.
And still, Kammerman holds on to 3rd place from Emil Breitmeier.
So Guinard looking to repeat the victories he had here in this Heritage Touring Cup in 2021, 2022.
I think Michael Kammerman is wise to all the potential attacking lines that he's taken. Of course, those cars will be as close to identical in terms of performance. Of course, their setup might vary slightly, and this is a tricky circuit. You know, you might look at the Dijon-Prenois circuit and think it's not long like Spa-Francorchamps, it's not long like the Nürburgring, but the lap has plenty of surprises, and it looks like Emil Breitmeier's decided to go up the inside. That's not the move of someone who knows his rival has got a 3-second penalty.
No, he certainly doesn't. And that was a bit audacious, wasn't it? I mean, track limits on the inside rather than the outside, wasn't it?
And it's definitely the last lap. At least he knows that part. What he doesn't know is if any penalties come to the way of this man, which is Maxime Guinard. He's sitting on a 20-second margin. He's always just had that advantage from pole position, eked his way clear, resisted the attacks from Armand Miel, and then the best of the BMW CSLs. That was Emil Breitmeier and Michael Kammerman. And the rest is history. What we do not know, however, are the ongoing investigations. Final lap, second infringement for someone for track limits, not one of the front runners, that's fine.
Of course, we may not know for hours if it goes to a steward's inquiry. I'm going to pop down to the pits to see if there's enough time to grab an interview with the winner. The second race may follow on very quickly, so it may not be possible, but we'll go and give it a try.
Well, we know the identity of the first car across the line. It's Maxime Guinard. There he is. Thanks very much, Andrew. Hand out of the window. He's delighted with that. And waiting for the best of the rest. Armand Miel, he's had his problems, clearly dropping back, and now he's on the start-finish straight to take second place overall. And eventually the margin is 20 seconds. Then third place into the background, Kammerman and Breitmeier up the slope they go, but Cameraman has now had time added to him. He's had that 3-second penalty added to his time, so Breitmeyer takes the second spot. And penalties, well, they come for all sorts of reasons, but when they're issued, you know the identity. Yves Skamama taking 5th place overall, and really one needs, and sorry, 6th place overall behind Philippe Skamama, so Skamama's 1 and 2. And Group A is going to go, just wait and see when it crosses line, waiting for Armand Adrians. He'll be a lap down overall, but victory will be his in class. Just look for car 121, and there it is. So he's gone nicely, smoothly about his business, but of course the Bastos, sorry, I beg my pardon, the Belga Mustang that led Group A for Christophe Van Riet had to pull into the pits and retire. But 16th place, job done for Armand Adrians. But that race belonged to Maxime Guinard. There is still a slight question mark. We'll maybe find out later if any punishment was issued. But as according to the time screen now, victory by 20 seconds. The driver of this, Nigrin and Shell's liveried Ford Capri RS 3100, a Cologne Capri, and it really was marking out the great days when Ford and BMW absolutely thrashed it out across the top circuits around Europe. Very, very spectacular. They employed the top drivers of the day, paid them very nicely indeed, and the prestige, it very much was the win on Sunday, sell on Monday mentality back then, and it forged really, really strong identities for both those marques. So, plenty of fun, a handful of retirements, which would be disappointing for those concerned, but some great driving out there to launch the Sunday here at the Grand Prix de l'Âge d'Or, the Grand Prix of the Golden Age. It was in a series that started some while ago, but the fields have grown and grown. It's moved around, but very much found a happy hunting ground, a home at Dijon-Prenois, a circuit that's far busier than a lot of people realise. I mean, over the past few weeks, they've had a historic motorcycle meeting. They've had the top French GTs coming to play. They've got further meetings through the year, and it's got a kart track, and it really is a busy place. And a lot of people thought when it lost its Grand Prix in the mid-1980s to rival French circuits that it would be the start of decline, but decline it has not, and I'm delighted because it's always been a track that's provided great racing, and that wonderful image of the 1979 French Grand Prix, the final few laps, the battling for second place between René Arnoux in the Renault, while his sister car Jean-Pierre Jably went on to take Renault's first win, but second place he and Gilles Villeneuve in his Ferrari just hammer and tongs. There we are, final results just flashing onto the screen. But it's Maxime Guinard from Armand Miel, it's Ford Capri from Ford Capri, then the best of the BMW CSLs. Emil Breitmeyer, by dint of not having a 3-second penalty, eased ahead of Michael Kammerman, who did. They were 3rd and 4th, then the two Skamamas. In the BMW, that's Philippe in 5th, and the Ford-driven Yves Skamama in 6th place overall. In fact, only a second and a half down. But it belonged to the Nigrin and Shell liveried Ford Capri and Maxime Guinard. So job well done. That's the Heritage Touring Cup, and we've got a packed agenda already. I can hear other cars revving up to go and get their turn out on the circuit. And like a rocket, our man Andrew Mariott is down, lining up an interview with the race winner. That's Maxime Guinard. So as soon as he gets the go-ahead, we'll hear the winner's thoughts.
Because I have to go to the next race. I'm very sorry about it.
Okay, that's no problem.
sorry.
Yeah, Maxime is actually in the next race, so he's had to rush off. But I'm going to see if I can get Armand Miel. Come on, Armand. Finishing second, that was a good battle.
Yes, very good race with my friend Maxime, and I'm very, very happy for the second.
En français?
Ah oui, je parle français. En gros, je suis très content de cette course. Franchement, je me suis très bien amusé avec mon pilote, mon ami Maxime Guinard, avec qui on a eu une belle bagarre quand même au début. Après, au fur et à mesure de la course, les espaces se sont faits. Mais non, franchement, une très belle course, et une très belle bagarre avec les 3 litres CSL aussi.
At the end of the race, you slowed down a bit. Had you got a slight problem?
No, just because we have sometimes a little bit seconds, yes, a little bit gap, but just slow down for finish and not break.
Well done, second place, and congratulations, Messi.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And again, that was just reiterating how busy some of these drivers are. And the next race will follow very soon indeed. That's the classic endurance racing too, an entirely different field of cars. I think open-top chevrons, toys, think of Porsche 935. So Maxime Guénard racing off to that. But good point there from Armand Mille. You know, he enjoyed the race early on, but decided to, you know, not take too much out of the car, particularly the brakes. And here, when you think about the braking required for the first corner and other points around the circuit, that was wise indeed. But in fact, Maxime Guénard is not only in the next race, he's starting from pole position, so he certainly doesn't want to lose that opportunity. So he'll be scurrying into the collection area and then very soon back out onto track. A busy, busy day, just how they like it. And he's going to start in the Otford Group Lola T86, a car I used to watch race in the UK a lot back in period in the late 70s. So the Heritage Touring cars move away. The stage is set, and the second race also an hour in duration will start in 7 minutes time. That's how quick fire it is. So race one of the second day of racing at Dijon-Prenois for the Peter also Classic Series. Chalk that one off. So if you loved your CSL BMWs, your Cologne Capris, that was a great way to get the day started. But sports car racing, we've got a huge diversity lined up to follow this. And back in period, a lot of the cars in this would have been racing in the European 2-litre sports car series, and some of the prettiest cars I think that ever went racing. I absolutely adore them. And it burnt very brightly until 1974. It's rather stumbled into 75, and then the series ran out of steam, actually, in many ways, because the domination in 1974 of the Alpine team, the works team, Alpine, with Renault engines, Alain Sepagi, Gérard Lerousse, and Jean-Pierre Jabouille just cleaned up. They won practically everything that year, and that's never good for a championship, but it was certainly good for the manufacturers of the car, the constructors of the cars, the Lolas, the Chevrons, the Ocellas, the Abarths, and the Alpines. And we'll get to see a lot of those. And if you like your Porsche 935s, they will be in that mix as well. So great diversity coming up soon. And looking ahead to that race, it's front end of the grid. We are looking at a Lola T86, one I mentioned, Maxime Guénard's car, then a Toy. These were cars that were built effectively out of GRDs, but with the name of Jörg Obermoser's entity. And we've got two Toys starting, Yves Saint-Marmez in second and Dominique Guénard in fourth, but in between them is Tony Sinclair in the best of the under 2-litre class in the prototype. And then we've got the GT class cars further back, starting with Dennis Bush's Porsche 935, just ahead of Brigand's car, which is in the same class, and that's starting. They are starting 8th and 9th overall. And then there's Mr. John of B, who's in an awful lot of cars around here. That's his racing pseudonym. He'll be in a Ligier JS2. And here they come with some of the classic liveries of the day, along a wonderfully broad pit lane here for a circuit built in the 70s. A lot of them were built with very narrow pit lanes, so this is actually a rather more comfortable environment, particularly for a race where there are pit stops, because it gives the spaces for the cars to pull into the pit lane nice and safely, pull over to the side, have the driver changeovers. A look down at that mix, a Ferrari 512 BBLM in the middle of the shot, behind the IROC Porsche 9345, so effectively the 935 rear end with the standard 911 front end. In front of it, car number 2 and 54, which is, they are the 935s with a far more flamboyant body shapes, and car 54 is the one Dennis Bush will be driving from effective class pole in 8th place overall. Good to see an Acela in the background of the shot as well. That's the red prototype, open-top prototype. And then tucked in behind is John Barber, just returning to racing, and second run in a 2-litre sports car class. So learning as he goes, British driver. 54, look for that. Dennis and Mark Bush. Dennis will be starting it and his twin Mark will finish the race. That's been very, very successful. I talked of the Acela. There it is, car number 77. Run by a pair of Japanese racers. Come over from Japan for that. That's Hisashi Kunie and Yasuo Akashika. There's John Barber's Lola. And again, you get this great variety of cars, but the open-top cars, the Chevron bring up the rear. A real mix of cars and some great drivers, but at the time it was about prize money too. And when the championship, suddenly people started not running their races, with all sorts of disagreements that led to races not happening in 1975. So the writing was on the wall. Alpine withdrew, and that sort of was that. But it did leave this fabulous array of cars to come and play. And this is the... Oh dear, we had a very near spin. I think that's the number 2 935 of Emmanuel Brigot, who saw him just getting it wrong. I think he's probably corrected it. That's out of the parabolic hairpin. And certainly the nose of the 935 should have been pointing to the right and it was going to the left, but I think he scooped it up. Not what you want on your formation lap. It's Sunday morning, it's Dijon-Prenois. It's at a meeting that is packed with an array of championships, array of cars, a full history, and it's the Grand Prix de l'Âge d'Or, the Grand Prix of the Golden Age. It really is an assembly of fabulous cars, great teams and drivers, but on the most magnificent of circuit. And even though this is only my first visit, or probably because it's my first visit, I've underestimated this circuit in the past. I knew it had gradient change, but the flow of the circuit is something that's fantastic. For a lot of these drivers, very busy indeed. Andrew Marriott's just raced back up to join me. Well, busy people down there. Maxime Guina, I'd love to talk to you, but I'm on pole for the next race, if you don't mind.
But he was very polite about it.
He was.
And it's just for those listening on our English channel, I believe the French listeners are also listening to the interview, so that's why...
Yes, no, well, it's very good. Gives me a bit of language.
That was good. They love these cars. I mean, we've had this discussion whether this is a toy or a Toj. And I asked that very man, do you call it a toy or do you call it a Toj? And he said, I call it a Toj because I'm German. No, I'm French. So I'm French. And of course, Jorgo Bamosa, who built the cars, was German. So it's a toy stroke Toj.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Tojiro, of course.
No, exactly not.
We'll see a Tojiro later.
So it's what we call car number 50.
The man that just won that race is the man that's likely to win this race because he is the star in this. Is Otford Group car, and he's waving. Why is he waving his arms about?
I don't know. Was that just...
The 3 lead cars all got DFV engines in, 3-litre Formula 1 engines.
There's the lead car in GT2. So this just shows the variety in itself, doesn't it? Look across a row from a Chevron to a Porsche 935.
Sponsored by a vodka drink.
A vodka with grapefruit drink.
Yes.
Mambo.
Mambo.
Crown Racing, great to see that livery on this Lola, car number 85, Tony Sinclair's car. That's the top car in the under 2 litre class because this was a car that won the championship, or Crown Racing won it with Chris Craft, the European 2 litre championship in 1973.
Martin Bahrain's team. Martin, who went on, is no longer with us, but went on to own Lola cars.
Yep, and was sort of very instrumental in getting Mondello Park back up to speed again.
Yes, he was.
What you didn't see when you were nipping back up here is the number 2 Porsche 935 nearly dropped it on the formation lap. A big coming out of parabolique, and luckily where the track scoops the cars, it got the nose back.
Ferrari as well with it, but flat 12 engine that.
Yeah, and that's Olivier Breitmeier. We've seen the Breitmeiers hopping from car to car, from race to race, but they really do have a phenomenal stable of desirable cars. Right, what are the conditions like? We've had a little flash of sunshine. It's gone back to being sort of light cloud. It's air temperature 15 degrees. It's not rocketing up. Track temperature 21. Actually, perfect racing conditions.
A couple of stories from the pits. Nick Padmore didn't drive. He was in the pits and he was ready, but was not required. Very disappointed, of course. And but his Paurion has not raced much this season, so he wanted to get some extra laps in. He's the owner of the car. And the other thing to say is Maxime Guenard knew nothing about this potential penalty.
Yeah, I didn't think he would.
No, and it looked a bit phased when I asked him.
Yeah, but actually, you know, his job was to do the driving. But also the fact he had to then sprint away and get into the car from which he's starting from pole. The car that I saw Jim Wallace yace for so many years. The Otford Group was a packaging company based in Kent, very near to Brands Hatch, and but he always had really. All his cars ran in that the livery that he just made his own, but they were always beautifully presented.
And it's funny that this car wasn't really. This race mainly in Thunder Sports, didn't it?
It did. So racing against, you know,
sort of very much national British Championship.
And it really was not quite run what you brung, but I mean racing against great big Can-Am cars and things.
And Sports 2000, it was a very much catch-all class. So interesting to see the 935s, of course, against pure out-and-out open-top sports cars.
But again, that just echoes the history of sports car racing. You've always had this combination of prototypes, sports cars and GT cars.
Bit of history with this race, classic endurance racing 2. Yves Shimama in the gold Vorsteiner Lirid Toj won last year, but the 3 previous years, Max Guenard won it all 3 years. And there is a race at Plateau 6 at Le Mans Classic is for these cars, and Max Guenard usually wins that. So, and he did confirm to me that he's known Armand Meal since they were school kids.
Oh, right, that's nice, isn't it? Right, 1 hour race coming up. There'll be a pit stop window between 25 minutes into race and 35. Were you going to say something different?
Jamie Constable, have you mentioned him?
Not yet.
No. Jamie's been very successful in historic single-seater racing, and he's 6'4", so he just about squeezes himself into a
perfect height.
Yeah. Yes, Bruce.
not for travelling on an aeroplane, obviously, but.
No.
Right, so round they come, 2 by 2, 1 hour of racing ahead of them. The cars with the periscope, that's the Osella with the, there we are, towards the back of the grid.
Yeah, Italian Osella, which...
you were particularly excited to see that in the paddock.
Yeah, I like Osellas. And strange enough, one of the Osella drivers was Arturo Mazzario, and he won the first ever race here. But sometimes, of course, he raced Alphas, and I haven't had a chance to check whether it was in an Osella or an Alpha. And Mazzario, of course, built his own Formula 1 cars at one stage. And but had to use a British man called Simon Hadfield to build a car for him.
Yes, indeed. And Simon has been huge in historic racing. Talk about huge in historic racing. This is huge in historic racing, and it looks like it's going to be a very good start from pole position from Maxime Guenard. Waiting, no overtaking until the lights go green. The 3rd row is almost with the 2nd row. And it's Lola against Toy on the front row, but number 50 nose just in front into the 1st corner. So it's, as you were, Maxime Guenard, Yves Shimama. Look to see if anybody was making gains. It all seems fairly level pegging, certainly with the 934s and the 935, or the 9345 and the 935s, 3 abreast. They went to the 1st corner, but the 1st corner drops into that compression up the rise to this point. As the sun comes out, they get into the sweepers, and then down they go into La Bretelle, onto the loop that was added in 1976. The gradient change, the flow of this circuit is fantastic, flattened by TV. Down they go to the bottom, lowest point on the circuit. That's parabolic, and up the rise. The track comes up very quickly as they turn to the right. Oh, one of the 935s again. It's number 2. The very corner that he had a problem. Another 935 has a worse problem and puts himself sideways in the track. Pretty much everybody else has got past.
That's not a nice place.
No, because you're fairly blind on entry here. You're committed to braking as late as you possibly can. I think it was Luca Liccardi who possibly looped that one around. In response, the number 2 Porsche in front of him getting a little bit sideways.
So we got the 3 Cosworth powered cars out the front, and then Tony Sinclair leads the 2-litre class from 2 other British drivers, Jamie Constable, Ross Hyatt, who had problems with the BMW in that previous race, but this time it seems to be better with his Chevron.
Well, it's a tidy lead at the end of the opening lap. 2 seconds to the good, and the Crown Racing Lola, Tony Sinclair being pushed very hard by Jamie Constable, who's gone from 5th or 6th up to 4th. The number 2 935 of Emmanuel Brigon, 3rd in the GT2 class, but it's Dennis Bush who leads that class. 6th place overall, the number 54 Porsche 935. That's the one in the blue livery. Ross Hyatt, lights flashing on his bright green Chevron. But our race leader down to the parabolic with that, yeah, it still looks so it's maybe 2.5 seconds now. The toy in second place of Dominique Guéa. When I say the toy, one of the toys.
Yeah, but the drivers are going to climb into the 3rd and 4th place car, because we lost one of the, we just lost Shimama. Shimama's in the pits.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the toys, and I suddenly thought there is only one because the other's in the pits. Right, waved yellow flag. Turn 8. That's someone spun at the final corner by looks of things.
Some of the intrigue in this is that the 2 drivers will climb into 3rd and 4th place cars, Nick Padmore and Martin O'Connell. Now, they are both mega quick, and although they're 2-litre cars, talking to O'Connell yesterday, he thought he could have a chance at mixing it with the Cosworth-powered cars round here. He's had one round here in the past. He won this race back in 2016. Did Martin O'Connell?
Well, he's an absolutely mighty driver. So
yeah,
punch a problem for Yves Samama. That's why he's in the pits. Still haven't worked out quite who stuck it in the gravel through turn 8. Oh, car number 77. I've just worked that one out. That's oh dear. That was the Japanese-driven Osella. We praised it.
We liked it.
We ruined its hopes.
Yeah.
Right, Jamie Constable now pushing very, very hard indeed onto Tony Sinclair's tail. Battle for 3rd place. Battle for the under 2-litre class.
Also in the pits, the very fast Porsche 935 of the Bush twins.
Oh.
Yep. And they didn't start, and neither did Mr. John B, apparently.
Dennis Bush is up. Oh, well, no, he was entered in 2 cars. He had the 9345 and which is the more standard-looking front end, and then the full flat-nose 935. That's running in 6th overall. Phew, gave me a scare there.
Yeah, but Mr. John B didn't start.
No, that's in the Ligier. I was looking forward to seeing that Ligier JS2. Still waved yellow flags down at the final corner, and again, you don't have long line of sight. The flags were waved at the penultimate corner. That's the final corner where the cars are now, fighting on the under 2-litre class, up the climb.
Between Sinclair and Constable.
Constable running in the Team Gunston colours, that would please you, the orange and brown.
Yes, because these cars,
but I know you prefer the Lucky Strike. I said that to wind you up.
These cars went and raced in the Springbok series, and that particular Gunston car, who tried to dive down the inside there, was driven, and you see the names on there, Schechter and Watson, 2 great Grand Prix winners there that raced that car out in South Africa.
Yeah, I think
you commentate with Watty a lot. He used to sleep on my flat floor many years ago. A great character, still loves his racing.
Brilliant recall.
Yeah, brilliant recall.
You can read a race.
If he was here, he'd tell us a lot about that car.
He would, but also, okay, if people don't know what the Springbok series is or was,
yes,
it was a series of races around southern Africa in the European winter. So it was a fantastic way to keep in race trim and have a lot of fun also between the races. You know, a lot of people were able to go on safari, and you know, it was a way to put prize money in your pocket.
They went to Zimbabwe. They went to 2 or 3. I mean, the main circuits obviously were Kailami and down in Killarney. 3 or 4 really good tracks in South Africa. Not East London, I don't think.
And Angola.
And then, went to Angola.
Was there a race in Lourenço Marques, or Maputo now, as it's called in Mozambique?
Was that where the bridge collapsed with the spectators and stopped the race?
Yeah, I think it was, because I pulled that out in the commentary. Imagine that, too many people on the starting, it was a bridge over the circuit by the first corner, and it suddenly one end started coming loose. What flag do we wave for that?
Yeah. So we got Gwen, our father, and it's a terrific battle between these 2, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Constable's finally made it past Tony Sinclair. That was by braking incredibly late to the first corner, because he spotted that really slow-moving 935 and thought,
driving it like Jody Schechter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. These cars are so nimble. I absolutely adore them.
There are 2 toys in this.
Yeah. There's Dominique Guéa, who's still going.
So it's father in front of son at the moment.
Yeah, and son's had the...
Ross Hyer's going well. Look, he's up to 5th in a car similar to the one he raced at Le Mans. And then Dennis Bush, one of the Bush twins, is leading the GT2 category.
Yeah, he's leading with only by 3 seconds, because car number 180 going very nicely. Second in the GT2 class. This is a 9345, and that's Lars Rollner's car, but Pierre-Alain Thibault has started that one.
And John Barber in 14th. We had him as a guest up here yesterday. So father leading dad by 4 seconds. Now, if Constable and Sinclair can keep in touch, there's a chance that they're pro drivers will manage to mix it with the Grenard.
Well, Constable, having got past Tony Sinclair in 85, just turning into the first corner now, has gained in the space of that lap best part of 2 seconds. And I think he's marginally faster than Dominic Guénard, so maybe he'll start reducing the gap to the second place toy. That's the one with the black-green BMW livery. BMW, what am I talking about? BP livery.
Just talking to Jamie Constable, first Formula 1 car he got was a Shadow DN8 because he could get into it. I can't remember with any of the Shadow drivers being particularly tall, but Tony Southgate must have designed a bit of extra space in the cockpit for that.
Probably the tallest driver they had was Tom Price.
What he really wanted to do was race at Monaco, so that's why he really got into. Jamie Constable runs a big outfit called R Capital in London. They invest in a lot of companies, but he was another guy that started in the Caterham Academy.
Yeah,
and then he raced a Juno, if you remember. There's a little mini sports car, and he's got a lovely Pescarola as well, and most recently success in Tyrrells.
No, he's done really well. He's driving very well today. He's now starting to vaguely reduce the gap to Dominic Guénard in second place. The gap between them is, as I say, that there's a slower sector and he falls away. It's 10 or 11 seconds to race leader, but about 7 seconds to the car in second place. So just look out for Jamie Constable.
Higher to the green car just going through.
Yeah, now is he catching Tony Sinclair? No, matching his pace. So he's staying in 5th place. He's clear by about a second from the leading GT2 car, which is the pale blue one, Dominic Guénard. Sorry, what am I talking about? Dennis Bush, car number 54.
You must have seen the Bushes racing at Nürburgring and so on.
Yeah, they burst on the scene a while ago and did quite a lot of GT racing. But
they did the German GT series, didn't they?
Yeah.
GT Masters, I think it's called. But they've now dropped back into historic racing.
They have, but their family company sells a lot of garage equipment, so they always have an enormous stand. Their commercial push is there's a big presence in paddocks, and clearly it works very well for them. And they've got now this fabulous array, particularly of Porsches. Twin Bush is their marketing brand. And in GT2, 6th overall, Dennis Bush leading, gap back to next car in class, about 6.5 seconds to Pierre-Alain Thibault in a 9.345. There is Pierre-Alain Thibault, beautifully caught by the TV director, as I was mentioning him. Again, you've got that sort of very flamboyant rear wing, which you would continue onto the 935, but the front end of that Porsche looking far more Porsche shape. But for our race leader, the Otford Group Lola T86, the engine note for the aficionados of motor racing from the 70s is a Ford Cosworth DFE.
Yep.
The soundtrack of Formula 1 in the day. Of course, we had cars with the Matra V12, the Ferrari V12, but it was Alfa Romeo, but the backbone of the sport at that point. And for the next
20
nearly, and just so many wins.
And DFEs also, they did win Le Mans. The engine was modified to DFX and won Indianapolis. It's a terrific motor. So there is it.
But famously vibrated too much in the early days in sports car racing. For the longer distance races, components started to suffer accordingly. So
the battle for third is interesting because Sinclair is in a Lola T92 and Constable is in a Chevron B26. And in period, they were great rivals and very closely matched. And
I'm just taking a look.
Yeah.
Our race lead, the last 2 laps have actually been rather better for Dominic Guénard in the black and green toy. It's in the background of the shot. The Otford Group Lola still leading the race with Maxime at the helm. 4.5 seconds between them. And I thought Jamie Constable was just marginally catching Dominic Guénard, but I think Dominic in this car just had a slightly slower lap, probably because of traffic. And in fact, second to third is going out rather than coming down. It's 10 seconds between them. But then, remember, the cars in the first 2 cars, we've got Cosworth DFEs in the back, 3 litres of power versus the under 2 litre.
450 horsepower probably here.
And with the larger engines, they could afford to run a bit more downforce as well. So at a circuit like this, that would certainly give them much more comfort as they dive into corners like this, the final one.
And that's a French BP deal, wasn't it? Or BP is British Petroleum. That was a French deal. I think that the car raced in period like that. But
yeah, the French.
I'm not quite sure the history of that particular car, actually.
No, but the French arm of BP, you know, it was a real battle because in the French market it was all about fuels, wasn't it? Total put so much in, and you know, you had to keep competing to keep your name up there.
But it looks great, doesn't it?
It does, and all these cars bear inspection, and that's the beauty about the paddock here. You can get up really close because you've got the two toys, and they're only a year or so apart, and the way they're handling their aerodynamic treatment is very different. There's very little carry-on from one to the other.
I said it was a German manufacturer, but indeed the chassis originated from the GRD company from Norfolk, which was a breakaway group from Lotus, and then they had the bodywork substantially changed by a guy who still runs a design company to this day, and he's designed everything from works for major motor manufacturers, but he's also designed toothbrushes, believe it or not.
It's a natural fit. You know, anybody who worked on it. Yeah.
But it's a big design company, and but in the early days, I think he's German. He worked in the design office at Lotus Formula 1 and McLaren F1, and so son Max pulled some 7 seconds away from Guenard. I think Martin O'Connell had a lot of work to do to pull that car into the realms of the DFE motors there. Shimama's running again, isn't he? In 18th place.
Yeah, he's come out after the long stop. Effectively, we lost the two cars before the start of the race. One of the Bush brother cars, that's the 94 95 Porsche, the Ligier JS2 of Mr. John of B, and then unfortunately the Acela of Akashika just going off at the side of the circuit.
Well, that Ligier was here, so it's a car that, it's a shame not to see there's a car that finished second at Le Mans one year.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see a car that a lot of people don't get to see in historic racing, and we've talked about this before, Andrew. It's not just about the cars that won races in the past, it's about those that took part, and I love cars that just suddenly get dug out and brought out on to public view again.
Mr. John B has got this fantastic collection of cars we mentioned yesterday. Not only French cars either. I mean, he has Ligiers, he has Matras, certainly the finest collection in the world of Ligiers and Matras.
And at least one of those Ligiers will be coming out again later, which for the Formula 1 driver display.
There's a marvellous Ferrari, the Boxer. He's about to be lapped. Olivier Breitmeyer at the wheel.
And keeping out of the way of Dominique Guenard there, so plenty of respect. Right, Jamie Constable running third overall, leading the under 2 litre class. He's got about a 10-second margin now over Tony Sinclair, who's now only got a second advantage over Ross Hyatt. So in the battle.
Yeah. So it's a good battle there.
For 5th place overall, Hyatt is coming. He's in the bright green Sphere Drake livery chevron, but the best chevron in the field is this one, the Team Gunston version, with Jamie Constable pressing on. He's definitely lost the battle to anything about Dominique Guenard. It was at one point about 8 seconds between them, but it's opened out. No surprise there. Huge amount more power for the first two cars with their DFVs.
Track limits overtook out of track limits at 2, car number 54.
Car 54 is Dennis Bush, the GT2 class leader. He's sitting on a lead over Pierre-Alain Thibault of just over 10 seconds, so we'll keep an eye on that one for you. But in the under 2 litre class, the sun shining on the orange and brown livery of Team Gunston. The Chevron B26 up the slope to put another lap under its belt. This will be 12 laps done. The pit window not approaching yet. It opens in 8.5 minutes. So.
Yeah, so it was very much looking at Max Guenard is going to open the morning with 2 consecutive wins and to win this race for the 4th time in 5 years. So shows that domination of that particular car driver combination. There's the crown racing. You see the sort of shape of the crown. Martin Perrin is, we mentioned he owned lowly race cars and the racetrack in Ireland, but it was the estate agent Manning Company was his business originally.
Yeah, property, and actually I think in the very early stages of his career he did something in the fashion world, I seem to remember, in textiles of some sort. Yeah. But, you know, a charming man with a twinkle in his eye, and but a doer. I mean, he really got on with stuff.
Yeah.
I went over to Mondello Park, and this isn't folklore. Yeah. They had just enlarged their clubhouse. This is in the late 1980s, and they were very proud. And at the last minute before the opening, someone noticed that when they took the scaffolding down, they hadn't built a staircase to the first floor, so they had to have an external one for a while.
Another Martin Bourrain story. He had a Chevrolet Camaro, and he took the car down to the Villarreal track in Portugal. They wheeled it out, and it was sponsored by a company called Kona Coffee. They made coffee machines. They wheeled the car down the ramp, and everybody went, very rude word in Portuguese. So started with the same letter, and there's four, the same letter and same number of letters as well.
How to make a splash.
Yes, they covered it up pretty quickly. They had no idea. So good battle in these 3 2-litre cars, although Jamie Constable certainly done a good job to pull away from Tony Sinclair.
Well, he has.
Closing up a little bit. So
it ebbs and flows, that battle for 4th place, but Jamie Constable's got the job done. He's gained 10 seconds. Class leader in GT2 is still Dennis Bush, pressing on in that number 54 Porsche 935. There it is with the Mambo livery.
I think that's an original Kramer car. Kramer brothers ran these cars in period beautifully. I presume that Mambo's a period livery.
Well, I guess so, but did people really? Well, you'd think so, because I doubt they'd stray from it, but I never knew that people drank vodka and grapefruit in period. I thought it was a more recent thing.
That's what I was wondering, because those sort of drinks, we saw Seb Perez racing yesterday in the 2.0 litre cup. His father would make something similar to that, or blend something.
Blend, yeah. Handcrafted.
Yeah.
Little artisan drinkery.
I don't think it's artisan.
No. I'm just trying to paint an image.
Yes, it's called Global Brands, his companies.
Yeah.
And lap times now between the just Max pulling away from Dad by more than a second a lap, Bruce.
Yeah, no, it's the last 2 laps. It's funny, you often get a battle that sort of seems stable, but when you get further into the stint and people are happier or have saved their tyres a bit more, that's the mark of a great driver that can really stretch that out.
Well, I'll be interested to see what Martin O'Connell does in that car. Martin, seen him win at Monaco in an ATS Formula 1 car. It's about the only race an ATS has ever won. An absolutely terrific driver and big preparation. There are a lot of race cars there in the West Midlands, and you can tell he comes from the West Midlands.
You can.
And Martin, of course, was Formula 3 B Series champion, and all-round good guy.
Yeah, I mean, he just gets in and gets on, and he's quick. It doesn't matter what you put him in.
Got real talent.
Yeah. Of course, was it his uncle who was Ray Rowan, who was the hill climb champion?
Oh, I think that's right, yes.
So he was sort of brought up with things mechanical, and it does really help to have that understanding, for sure. Maybe slightly less now than used to be the case, where things, you could hit them with hammers, but... Right, Maxime Guinard, 13 seconds to good now in that Otford Group Lola. So he's leading the race, leading the over 2 litre class. The under 2 litre class is Jamie Constable, still actually 9 seconds or so over Tony Sinclair. So Chevron B26 car number 99 gets bragging rights in that.
Now we're seeing the car. We haven't seen that much of Breweiler, the red Chevron B36.
Yeah,
no sponsorship on it.
Well, he's now starting to really nip around the tail of the GT2 class leader, which is Dennis Bush in his Porsche 935.
Typical lick of flames. I used to love to see these cars at Le Mans, and if you went down to Arnage, you could stand and see them going away, and the glow of the twin turbos was reflected on the actual racing surface,
on the circuit,
on the asphalt. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. At night, of course.
At night, yes. It's funny how memories like that sort of stay with you, last the test of time. Other stuff comes and go. You need something a little out of the ordinary, but sometimes it's almost like a moment of silence, and then you're just looking at something. You go, "I've never seen that before." Right, it's good to see the second toy.
Yeah,
so delayed early on. It lost effectively 3 laps, but Yves Samama out in that, and that's. I've never understood their numbering system. The 1978 toy is the SC303, but the 1976 one is the SC304, which is the one that Yves Samama has. And we saw them at Spa. We were looking at them, comparing them side by side, and they are remarkably different.
They built about 7 or 8 of them. Formula 1 driver Dave Walker raced one actually early on, and
right, pit window opens in 2 minutes. Good to see the Warsteiner livery. Of course, that was on the second of the toys. That was across a lot of cars. We had it in Formula 1 with arrows, but really it was other forms of racing where that livery was used so much. Warsteiner, German brewer. Actually, just taking a look, Yves Samama is lapping very, very nicely indeed. His best lap in the race is not quite as fast as the Dominic Guénard SC303 toy, down by about 1.5 seconds, but still lapping very nicely indeed. But Maxime Guénard has this race under control. He's got it under his thumb. However, just double checking, trying to, dearie me, under investigation. A constant abuse of track limits is our under 2 litre class leader. That's Jamie Constable.
Oh dear.
Under investigation.
Under investigation, yeah. I did say the Australian Grand Prix driver Dave Walker, who died recently, raced for Toy. It was in '74 after his Formula 1 career had sort of disappeared.
But it came and went in the blink of an eye, didn't it?
Yeah, and we did most of the season in '74, but in a 2 litre car.
Yeah.
And that company did also build Formula 2 car. Keke Rosberg raced on briefly in Formula 2, and they had Formula 3 and Super Bs. So there's the second place car, the BP liveried machine of Dominic Guénard.
It's about pacing yourself when you come up, because there's a 935 that's going quite slowly around the circuit. They've got to pick their way around that, but in fact the speed differential is such that by the next corner that will almost be out of the way. But some of the faster 935s, you know, they're a little harder, but you've got this mixture of GT cars, and there's the car in second place, Dominic Guénard, the toy SC303. Out now, all the crews will be knowing the pit window is open. And Emmanuel Brigon pressing on in his Porsche 935. He is running third in class. He's some distance behind the second place 9345 of Pierre-Alain Thibault, but going well.
One of those little recalls from Le Mans. I think that BP car was raced by Jean-Louis Lafosse.
Good, I'll go with that because
I think so. I need to check. We'll check that out for Le Mans Classic, where it'll be racing. For sure, it'll be in Plateau 6. Now, who's that walking?
Someone who wants to have a go. Someone who's probably been wavy over the pit will come in. The window is open.
Sinclair handed over to.
No, he's still circulating.
Padmore didn't get into the car, but they haven't made a pit stop, of course, yet.
No, the
window is open.
It's open, but only just.
Yeah. So let's see what happens here. I'm not sure. Is Ross Hyatt going to hand over to his son? I think he is. He's going to hand over to Nick. Oh no, hand over to Charlie. Charlie can row this car pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, well, that being the case, he'd be one of the early ones to come in. A couple of cars have pitted, but none of the front runners as yet.
Akim Storz was the name of the designer of the bodywork of this.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, and he's the guy that's still got this design agency, and he is still running it to this day. And so they've got a very good website, very professional outfit. If you look at their website, so there's a pit stop from Gianluigi Candiani and Frederic Rouvier are swapping places. Well, I can hopefully, assuming it stays the way it is, do a double interview with Max Guénard about his 2 wins.
Well, quite something, isn't it? Right, here's the Hyatt change. Yeah. So Ross out and Charlie in.
Presume it's Charlie and not. Can you see on his helmet? Charlie's driven this car quickly. He was quick in Barcelona and then stopped near the end for some reason.
Yes, he was absolutely flying there, wasn't he?
Wasn't he?
What's Sphere Drake?
It was the original sponsor of the car, and we have a guest, Gabby.
Von Hoppenheim is coming to join us. Come and sit in the middle, Gabby.
Yeah.
And we will. Hold on. That's better.
So Gabby has joined us. Calm down from your race.
Oh, calm down, never. I have another one this afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to that one because it's these hours races are just perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you never get tired, but after now you think, okay, I need a little break now. I'd like to have another race later, and such a fabulous track.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
just the way it works around.
Yeah.
I think it's the most graceful track because also for the visitors.
Oh, graceful. We haven't used it.
We haven't, but that's
yes,
supreme.
Like that.
Well, it is graceful, you know. I think it's also for the spectators when they can watch in this turn. It's absolutely beautiful to see the cars coming. It is like a dance, and I think the way you can also look into the countryside. You know, you have this amazing view over Dijon, and just look at the views here. It's
and yesterday you could see the black cloud arriving and then dropping.
I don't like that. I prefer the and church spires and stuff. But I really think it is the most graceful track because it's each turn you can really finish. You know, it's not like in other tracks where a turn is cut somewhere, but it's like a brushstroke that you can really bring to the end.
Yeah, or a beautiful turn when you're skiing and you just.
It's like a perfect turn when you're skiing, exactly.
But just looking at the images on the screen, these cars, the flow from the first corner through those sweepers, and these cars look fantastic, the 2-litre sports
amazing.
cars.
I watched their start yesterday, and it's just such an amazing group of cars. You know, the way they sit so low, and some of the lines of these cars are just incredible, they're like sculptures.
But you're racing, you know, the BMW 2002 Ti.
Yes.
Do you look at some of these other cars and go, I would like to try those in the years ahead, or are you just married to your BMW?
No. I also have a GTA, which I'll race later on in the race. And I also.
But I meant sort of open-top prototypes.
No, not well. I have one from the 50s, and it's the only one where it's the only car actually where I go, okay, this is really quick enough because the wind tries to take off your helmet.
Yeah.
But I have a prototype. You know, I have an Alpine A210, which I'll be racing at Le Mans, and
wow.
That is great as well.
Yeah.
It's
What's the 50s car you got, Gabby?
I've got an Oscar 2000S.
So Sterling Moss had one Sebring in a similar car.
Yeah.
Yes, he has an MT4, I think.
Yeah.
But he always said his favourite car he raced was his Oscar.
Yes.
He said it was just the perfect car.
Well, mine isn't. Mine isn't. For me, I think it's the BMW. It's such a modern car, but it's a car from my youth, so I can relate to it. And at the same time, it's so reliable and it's so quick. And
now we'll just stop here a moment. We've got the key pit stops happening now. Second place, Dominic Guénard is in. Max is still going. Tony Sinclair is still going. And
I expect Tony will be coming in relatively soon. He's in the pits now. Sorry, I'll move my screen across a little bit more. You can see a little blue flash.
The third and fourth place car putting their hot shoe British pros into the car now. So it could be interesting. They're only 2-litre. We were wondering if the Martin O'Connell, who will get into the constable car, can get in amongst the others there. But
yeah, well, what's happened with a flurry of cars coming in? The Opford Group, Lola still leading the race. Maxime Guénard, he's not handing over to anyone. He'll serve his pit stop when he wants. Within the pit window, but Dennis Bush has moved up, leading the GT2 class. He was running 6th constantly. Now he's up into 2nd place, but he'll have a brother who'd quite like a drive, so Mark will be waiting to take that one over.
Twin brothers racing together.
Really?
Yes.
Which one's quicker?
Well, who knows?
Yeah, it's not the only German twin brothers that race, actually. In Creventic, we've got...
they're identical twins to make it harder.
Yes.
Which is the Renauer brothers, Alfred and Robert.
Yes. We've got a little picture of you sitting there. That's a little memoir.
So wonderful as a souvenir.
Yeah.
Look, it was the 1980s.
That is, I like firsts, you know, and we've had a couple of firsts this weekend. One was at our hotel, we had to make our own tea bag up loose leaves and put them into the tea bag. Well, all my years, I've never ever seen that. But I've never seen somebody come into the booth and take a picture of us doing an interview and then handing our guest a picture.
Which black and white.
I thought that Instagram...
Black and white.
It is a historic series. It has to be in black and white, you see. So.
Beautiful, yes.
Okay, so our leader is in. And...
well, they were sitting on
there's Padmore. Padmore is in the Crown car now.
Yeah, 85 is the loader in the under 2 litre class. Then the GT2 class. Suddenly the pit lane becomes incredibly cramped. 4 consecutive garages.
All the quick boys are together, look.
Okay, Mark Bush is now ready. Get out. Twin brother out. That's a...
You know the helmets, do you? I've been impressed if you...
Well, no, I just knew that D. Bush was in the car and the other one was getting in. I'm not a policeman, but... So no driver change in this car. This is the race leader, Maxime Guénard. He'll stay on board that car.
How long is that stop? Do you know?
Technical question. We'll get back to you on that one. How long was their pit stop?
I believe they're minute pit stops.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure across all of them. But obviously, as a driver, you need to know the length of your pit stop in your race and remember which race you're doing.
And you have to remember to press the clock.
Yes.
Always forget.
Yeah, you have to figure. So you were talking about the stuff, and we love the gold Vorsteiner toy, which the guy who designed the bodywork still has a design company who's still operating it. So he designed that bodywork in 1975, and he still has a company that does car design.
Wonderful. What's his name?
His name, and I just said...
You just dug it out a while ago, didn't you, in your notes?
I have to look at he's called Achim Storz. And he's got a big design company. They designed everything from toothbrushes to good, but mainly cars. But, so a German success story, of course.
Wonderful.
And
right, everybody, pit window closes in a minute. Everybody's been good. Everybody has come in to make their stops. And for a lot of the drivers, here's John Barber. We were talking to him yesterday. Only his second run in this car. Normally he races with Michael Cantillon, so he's just getting a feel of this circuit, which he thinks is fantastic. But I think when you're new to a car and you do have a pit stop, you can actually relax for a short while and then start again and then get out there. Obviously, don't.
That helps quite often.
I think so. Oh dear. Constant abuse of track limits. Car number 99, 2-minute stop and go. And that was Jamie Constable. He was accruing them. He's just handed the car in 3rd overall to Martin O'Connell, who we thought would start chasing down the front two. Well, however, 2 minutes is not going to be his friend.
No, but they might not tell him.
No, they won't tell him. No, they do.
Gabby, for the Alpha this afternoon, what are your hopes and what are your thoughts about?
Oh, no, because I don't have the correct tyres, so I'm out of the competition. I just came in with a car.
Or?
No, I'm using Avon, which you're not.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use.
Oh, so they let you run, but you.
They let me run, and I need the practice in the car because I only started racing with the car last year, and I did the Tour with the car this year.
Was that fun? Tour Auto?
That was the best Tour I've ever had. The weather was incredible. I did it with my little brother. It was just the countryside, the tracks.
But just explain to someone who has no idea what the Tour d'Auto is. Where do you start? Where do you finish? And what do you do in between?
I think the Tour is the biggest motorsport event or rally. It's a race rally. You start in Paris. You spend 5 days, 14 hours in the car. You go. You do 4 races. You end up always in a different place in France over the course of 2,200 kilometers. But you do 4 races and you do 10 special stages on closed roads in the mountains or so rally stages.
Do a hill climb as well.
You do hill climbs as well?
Yeah.
It's very exciting. Yeah. It's very exhausting.
Yeah, I've been on it once, but only as pit crew.
I think it's the best thing you can do in the car if you want to go and see a country.
Yeah. And you go to Clermont-Ferrand. Did you go to Clermont-Ferrand?
Yes, yeah. I love that.
Right, yeah.
I had to start from the back because I had issues with my car before. The light machine went off, so I couldn't do the first race, so they made me start in the back, which was a bit of a pity, but also very nice because then you can just overtake everyone. You know, you can really chase. And Clermont is a bit like this. It's a bit like Nordschleife.
Yes.
Nordschleife. It has a very similar feel to it, only it's much shorter than Nordschleife, so it's quicker to remember. It's also very dangerous, very technical, and very elegant.
So finally, Dominic Guenard is in. So it's father and son race.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be in. This is a second pit stop, so this is a problem.
Yeah.
So
they're going to take the rear bodywork off, and I suspect there's an engine problem with the DFV motor there.
It's funny, its pace didn't clearly drop away until the last couple of laps, so something since the pit stop, so that's really disappointing.
Look, Charlie Hyatt's in a good position here, suddenly, because you know.
Okay, yellow flag at turn 5. Yeah, we'll wait to see while we're looking at the problem for this toy.
O'Connell's in the pits.
Well, he had the penalty. It was a 2-minute penalty.
But they're showing him in the pits on time and scoring.
Okay. Yes. I thought it was 2 minutes added time. Maybe it's 2 minutes stop and go.
Probably a stop and go, yes.
Oh, my word, that is night and day then.
Is he at the front? All a bit, unfortunately, we're pretty close to that spot. We can't actually see it.
No. Full course yellow is coming in the next 20 seconds. So someone has gone off at turn 5.
Yeah.
Look for the... Oh, it's on the exit of the parabolique. And...
Who is that?
It could be the Otford Group loader. It's not Maxime Guenard, is it?
No, I don't think. I think the wing's higher, isn't it?
No, just trying to work out.
Scoring showing.
Nobody stopped.
No, but I was looking at sector times.
Well, he
no, sector 2 has just come up.
Okay. Right, that's a tiny bit of a mystery. It doesn't say who has stopped. Oh, it does. It actually tells us it's car number 26. I apologise. It's the Chevrolet B26 of Claude Lejean and Lucien Rossio.
Oh, it's Lejean.
So that's a disappointment. So unusual place, but...
And a full course yellow, flags wave. Everyone holds station. And there's a big gap now between...
well, it's over and out, unfortunately, for Dominique Guenard, who'd been running in that second place. So his Kozlov DFV engine toy has come to a halt, which is a shame, particularly if it could have been a Guenard family first and second, but I'm sure the car will live to fight another day.
That's Dominique, one of the founders of the Richard Mille watch company. I see he's got fireproof jersey on there with McLaren, so he must have done McLaren, one of those McLaren Academy things, I guess, at some stage. There is the leader, and that is second.
Charlie Hyatt.
So Maxime Guenard has got the best part of a lap on him.
Yeah, I think we call that 99% of a lap, but they have to wait to go green flag until we go racing, and I don't know how long it's going to take them to tow the number 26 Chevron away. It's an unusual place to have a car parked at the side of the circuit, clearly a mechanical problem rather than anything else.
Here's Padmore. Well, he'll be thinking about having a go at Charlie Hyatt once it gets going again, won't he?
Yeah, he's running in third place.
Then the fourth place is that stickerless, well, not stickerless, but sponsorless red
Well, that's
car.
the Bruville car, so actually they're quite close. Hyatt, Padmore and Bruville are all in the under 2 litre class, and running probably covered by about 5 seconds. Well, I don't think we're going to get the BP toy back into the race. Still looking at that, but really the main point is during this full course yellow period, waiting to see how soon the car's going to go back to full speed racing. Just under 20 minutes remain in this 1 hour race. It's if you've just joined us, it's the Classic Endurance Racing 2, and we've been joined by Gabby von Oppenheim. And it's great. What I love, Gabby, is how many different cars you get to race, how many different experiences you have. And I'm not just talking about going on the Tour Auto, coming to circuits like this, having been at Spa-Francorchamps with rain 2 weeks ago, and then the series having started in Barcelona goes to Imola, there's the Le Mans Classic, and then Paul Ricard, everything different, and then lovely food in Portugal at the end of it.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do Barcelona, I couldn't do Spa, which is not a great miss with the rain.
A safe miss.
Still drying out from that.
Yes, I think so.
But what did you start in when you started racing? What got you?
I started with a 2.5 ST Porsche. And my first race was Le Mans Classic.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the first time I met Patrick Peter, and he said, where do you race usually? And I said, I don't, this is my first. And he said, but you must be crazy. And since then, we were friends. I think I was crazy.
Yeah.
But then my first experiences were in a 2-liter 911.
Mm-hmm.
But those cars are really very hard to drive on a track like this. You need a lot of physical strength.
Oh, okay.
You don't have, and I think the BMW and also the Alfa are easier to drive from a physical point of view. They're not slower. Yeah, they're actually quicker than some of the 911s. But
so here it's going out in the lead by 1 lap from Charlie Hyatt. Nick Padmore is in 3rd place. Just looking, Padmore catching Hyatt. Yes, he is. Just looking on the splits, not much so.
Not by much.
The second sector is actually tiny tad slower.
Yeah, and I think Charlie Hyatt was slightly delayed as Maxime Guénard in the race leading Lola went past.
Yeah, there is the abandoned Dominic Goyard car.
What I like watching during the race and also when I watch racing is how precise some of them are. You know, when you watch where they put their tires, how they respect the track and the limit, and how they look at this one, how beautifully he draws along the white line. It's just so nice to see the precision of some of these.
But actually, even in that, as he was coming up the slope, you could see as he was just pre-turning into the S's.
Yeah, if you watch that now, look how very gently he is with the track limits, and
a lot of drivers have been punished for track limits at the final corner, but you know, you need to know where they're looking and what you can get away with. But this circuit is all about flow, isn't it?
It's all about flow. It's but it's also, you know, sticking to the lines, getting the flow, you know, drawing yourself along the white lines, being precise. I think any circuit is about precision, but it's very much about the flow. And the last turn is probably less flow, but more scary and pull yourself together.
Yes. Just
once you're out of that, it's flow.
There was a British driver, David Purley, who, when he was racing at Chimay, which is a very fearsome circuit, to force himself to keep his foot flat, he would scream, as though he was in a charge in the army.
Which he had been.
Which he had been in the army.
There's a turn in Nürburgring where, in the beginning, I had to scream at myself to keep flat.
Right, not too long to go, just a quarter of an hour and a bonus minute thrown in. Maxime Guénard has got this race entirely under control. Dominic, his father, had to pull into the pits in his toy, lost 2nd place, and that elevated the top runners in the 2-litre class, under 2-litre class, to where they are now, and just having a place change, because Charlie Hyatt and the green chevron on the outside has been passed by the Crown Racing Lola. Nick Padmore up the inside into the parabolic and then over the crest and away. It was coming, but can Charlie hang on to his tail? Lola versus Chevron, it's exactly as it was in period. And these 2-litre cars make most circuits look large because they can really be put pretty much anywhere. Very, very nimble. But Padmore is absolutely on a flyer now. Picking off the 9345, that's just the Porsche up in front of them again, diving down into that long final corner. If you've got that handy, you can take the inside line, but look, the turbo kicks in on the Porsche and it accelerates up the slope all over again. But Padmore will be later on the brakes. He'll sit in its slipstream, already moving out, Andrew, to look for the line down into the first corner.
The storage with that, they only built 4 of these DFV 286s, and that's the last one, I believe. And Alan de Cadenet was going to buy it and then decided not to. And so it was sat in Lola's storage for best part of 10 years before it got bought to do Thundersports.
Many a story hidden on the internet. Well done.
Thank you to Lola Heritage for that.
Well, could we just thank Gabby for coming to join us. Gabby von Oppenheim in the box. Don't want to keep you here forever, because as you say, you have more races to do. You're a busy person, but it was a real joy having you up here, and go well.
Thank you for having me. It was great to see how you do it here. I always thought, how do they do it? Talk about cars and races all day.
Is it easy or difficult, do you think? Easy or difficult to do this?
It must be tremendously difficult, I think.
Thank you.
Yes,
Gabby, thanks very much. Have a great race.
Thank you very much.
Despite not having the right tyres.
Okay, Goodbye.
You'll just have fun, and that's what it's about, yeah. So, with the lead car, Bruce, you mentioned Jim Wallace, because Mike Wilds drove that car with him. And, Mike's written an excellent book, and Mike is a bloke who's probably been racing for 50 years, non-stop.
Non-stop.
Yeah, and his son's been racing. He's got beautiful, and raced in Formula One, of course, and with the yellow helmet with the black diamonds.
Black diamonds around the outside.
And his son has used that, and then his grandson has now started karting. And I saw a picture on the internet the other day with their 3 helmets lined up. It was great.
Oh, right. And you wouldn't believe it looking at my hairy head at the moment. We get our hair cut by the same barber in Mere down in Wiltshire.
Great guy, you know. And Dempster Properties, of course, was his big sponsor. But it was racist.
P.R. Riley in the...
P.R. Riley. So how are we doing 70s? On the times then?
Well, on the time, what's happened, having got ahead of Charlie Hyatt, Nick Padmore's built 7 seconds, nearly 8 seconds. He's absolutely flying.
Padmore's gone past Hyatt, of course.
Yeah, he passed him, and you know, I wondered if Charlie could hang on. He couldn't. And Philip Bruviller is 4th overall, 3rd in the 2-litre class, but he's 20 seconds or so, 23 seconds now behind Charlie Hyatt. So I'd say that battle has sorted out. Martin O'Connell, though,
back in the race,
9th place overall, banging in some super fast times, but he's got to find another 35 seconds even to move up to 8th place. You don't do a stop and go, but it's stop for 2 minutes and go.
No.
Without suffering consequences.
A big disappointment for them.
Yeah.
And this track limits thing.
Well, Jamie Constable was getting a number of warnings, and they were increasing by the moment.
And they see the warnings, you know, they know about these warnings. So
in fact, the driver...
They wouldn't have exceeded track limits. There'd been a wall around the edge of it, of course.
No, entirely. Well, it's that modern conversation.
Yeah, you might think that's a strange thing to say, but at Silverstone, back in the day, on all the insides of the corners was little breeze block walls.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a time of consequence. Right, here's our race leader just going past John Barber. That is Maxime Guénard. Not quite home and hosed, another 12 minutes or so remain in this race, but he is a lap clear of the best of the rest. That's Nick Padmore in the Crown Racing Lola 292 from 1973.
And Nick's a litre down, of course, on Guénard. He's matching him pretty well, 10th of a second for 10th of a second.
In fact, on this lap, he's faster in the first 2 timing sectors out of the 3. So
I think you'll find that in sector 3, he's a bit even faster, because I noticed earlier he was very quick in sector 3. So Nick had a disappointment of not being in the previous race, but he's making up for it here. And we thought that, you know, either the Padmore car or Martin O'Connell would maybe get in amongst the 3-litre cars.
Yeah, well, it's a shame not to see that charge, and shame for Philip Bruviller. He's pulled into the pits. He was running 3rd in the other 2-litre class in his Chevron B36, but he has made a 2nd visit, and he's still in the pits. Disappointment, but he's had the best part of 50 minutes of racing on this fantastic circuit.
Last 10 minutes, as you can see on our graphics, just above overall, it says, see the countdown clock. So, again, Padmore, I mean, Guénard's got a lap lead. He can just stroke it home, can't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Team Gunston car. Oh, sorry, I saw the orange tail. That's John Barber's
Bonnier.
Joe Bonnier livery Lola. Only recently purchased that T296, so he's getting the feel of that car, but just looking to see Martin O'Connell. Now he's got to gain a whole load of time, even to gain another position in the Gunston Chevron that was running so well in the hands of Jamie Constable. There is Dennis Bush.
Yeah.
Talking with the crew chief, and they run a lot of cars. Again, 2 weeks ago at Spa, he was jumping from one to another.
I think that might be Father Bush.
Big Bush.
Big Bush.
Charlie Hyatt being chased there. Right. Maxime Guénard into the first corner. He's not being chased by the Crown Racing Lola. It's only a couple of seconds behind him, but there's an entire lap between them.
Yes.
Knitting their way.
Well, it'd be nice to unlap himself, though, wouldn't it?
Would it ever?
You know,
you've got to have a target.
The Padster is going to really go for it and try and do that, I bet.
Yeah. 9 minutes left in which to do so. Wonderful sweepers, that first corner, dropping into the compression, up to the S's. And the revived toy picking its way past.
Yeah, Yves Shamama.
There's Charlie Hyatt running in 3rd position, safe in 3rd position. He's the best part of a minute ahead of Fred Rouvier. Obviously, he had less of an advantage when he had Philip Bruviller behind him, but that Chevron car number 42 parked up in the pits right now.
O'Connell's got himself up to 8. Having taken that 2-minute penalty. How far is he? Can he get?
No, he's
too far.
He's 26 seconds down on Lars Rollner's 9345 Porsche, so he won't He'll keep pressing on, but got to know what the car could have done. I love those comments from Gabby Oppenheim about how many things you can see in the background.
Yes.
The spires, the trees. You know, you never know. On a circuit like this, you're resting with your car most of the way. But at various points, you're on a high point looking out over the valley beyond.
Fantastic view. Well, there's a few circuits like that. Where you get a great view, maybe even the sea, the angle sea.
Oh, well, that's astonishing, the one there.
And
up in the northwest of Wales.
Yeah.
But,
and down
into Lagos, you get long views into the valley beyond.
Yes, you do, and into the favelas.
Yeah, that's true, the encroaching favela.
The circuit in Australia, south of Melbourne, Phillip Island.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you see the Pacific Ocean, I think, is it there? Was it?
Well, another one that's just opened the last few years, where you can see the sea probably from the grandstand, but not from the Straits, is the Mandalika circuit in Indonesia.
Oh, you've been to all these.
I haven't been there, but I was hoping to go there this year, but I lost the gig. So
and then of course the East London circuit, where they held Formula One races in South Africa.
Beautiful, that bowl on the cliff top. Yeah.
There I have been.
Oh, I'd love to go there. When I've been down in South Africa, you know, on safaris and things, I always wanted to just take a little detour, but never been allowed to do so yet.
Talking about the Tour of France, and there was a Tour of South Africa, just one, which was exactly the same deal that Gabby was describing, except it's exactly what she was describing, actually, although there were many more stages, and I was privileged to sit alongside Andy Dawson and win that event.
But some of those long distance, I mean, the events seem to be just multiplying. I was telling you about being in Namibia, in the middle of nowhere, suddenly dust in the distance, and a whole load of big Mustangs came rumbling through, something to Cape Town rally.
This was a serious event. We were in a factory Mazda. Jody Scheckter was in the same team as us, actually, and. And the funny thing was, Jody came from East London, and in the race, Andy beat Jody in a sister car on his home track, and he was not happy. And a bit later in the event, when we were quite a bit in the lead, he beat us on a very tricky long stage up the side of a mountain with lots of thorn bushes either side, where you could easily get a puncture. And we were maximum safety, and he beat us there. I've never seen a bloke so happy. I'll beat you on the rally stage now.
He did do unhappy too, didn't he?
I knew Jody pretty well, because when he first came to London, he slept on my flat floor for a couple of
Who didn't, Andrew? Who didn't?
No, some people didn't.
Right, but I tell you what though, just mentioning Mazda, you know, they made a massive push in motorsports in South Africa. A lot of their single-seaters then were Mazda powered, which you didn't really see elsewhere on the planet. Oh, right, Padmore to the pits for why? Oh dear,
it's coming in now.
Okay.
Is that for a penalty? No, I don't.
No, there's a penalty for another car for crossing the pit entry white line. Again, I've talked about how that's quite a difficult pit in. That's car 20, Eric Zucati.
So what's happened to Padmore? He was really flying.
Well, he absolutely was.
Yeah, so Charlie Hyatt. I mean, we've had attrition in this race, haven't we?
Yeah,
some people have got going again. O'Connell will go up a place, presumably.
Yeah, will Padmore hold on to his 35? Well, he's not going to hold on to his second place in class now. It was first.
Underneath the back of the car, there's looking into the disappointed eyes of Nick Padmore.
Great to see the original livery, the name of the driver who took the title in '73, Chris Craft, on the flanks of the car, steering wheel off, driver out.
Chris Craft did do a bit of Formula One with Alan de Cadenet and raced with the CAD, of course, at the moment.
And in Can-Am, didn't he? The Team Evergreen.
Yeah, Team Evergreen. And in fact, Nick hops out, and there's his wife in the background there in the back of the garage. Nick started in minis, and his dad was a big mini racer. Gone from minis to racing really decent Formula One cars.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
He's been a champion in a Formula One for a number of times. Historic Formula One. So, going to be a crushing victory by this Lola. He's just stroking home now.
I mean, the writing was on the ball from the outset. He qualified comfortably on pole position.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, he's won this race three out of the past 4 runnings of it. So, I'd have to look back. Obviously, the Le Mans Classic is every 2 years, but I think he's won Plateau 6 3 or 4 times as well. But then he holds down a full-time job as well. He'll be back back selling those expensive watches on Monday.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, what a weekend to have, and what a summer to have when you look across the circuits that you come to play on. And classic endurance racing, you know, a real hit. But we've got classic endurance 1. That's for the earlier cars later today, and those that think Lola T70s by and large, and big bangers, and then Group 4 cars like the Pantera.
Terrific race, and we got an ex-Formula 1 driver in that, in Jan Magnussen, and we've also got Nick Chester, who is the Chief Technical Officer for the new Cadillac Formula 1 team, spent years with Renault and ran the Mercedes Formula E team more recently. So we're hoping to get him into the booth.
Find out what else, but you know, he's clearly, it's, you know, as an engineer, as a designer, to be able to drive a car fast. I mean, Adrian Newey always enjoyed it. I mean, let's face it, Colin Chapman, you could hardly get him out of a car, but it gave him a chance to think about how things would work best. Eric Zucati, 935 in the pits, not where it wants to be. Didn't quite get to the end of an hour's racing. We're very nearly at the end of an hour's racing. And Maxime Guénard a lap clear, and now it's Charlie Hyatt in second place following the demise of Nick Padmore's Crown Racing Lola. So, as it was in period, it was often Lola against Chevron, and in the under 2 litre class, it's going to be a Chevron victory for the Sphere Drake car, the B31.
Now, after this, we've got the club sessions going, which means various people can buy some laps, really, and they're circulating everything from a Volkswagen Golf to a Porsche. Plus, we saw a Can-Am McLaren yesterday.
Sort of heard it as much as we saw it, the thing that rumbled.
Well, the car had been raced by the Banks brothers previously, and in this series, so I'm quite sure. And then we got to the bottom of that. Some French bloke was driving it. And I tried to talk to him, but my French wasn't good enough to understand what was going on, unfortunately.
Martin O'Connell, just the final few laps of the race, banging some really quick laps at the moment. Not quite as fast as Maxime Guénard, but he's giving away a litre. He's
going to get a cup because he's into third place now in that category, the 2 litre category.
Yeah, with the demise of Nick Padmore, he's up. Martin O'Connell, in fact, he could gain a cup at another place. He's got Lars Rollner to catch and try and pass in a Porsche 9345, not in the same class, but with a minute to go. Here's Charlie Hyatt.
Yep.
Second place overall. He's a lap down on the race leader, but he's sitting comfortably clear of Frédéric Rouvier, who's running another Chevron, B36 as well.
Bruce, I'm going to get down there to see the cars come in, and I'll try and also find out what happened to Nick Padmore. Hopefully he'll still be down in the pits there, but we'd nice to. Next to say we've got this more relaxed session, haven't we? Which we'll be taking a break then, but let's try and bang in a couple of interviews before.
No, that'd be great, Andrew. Thanks very much. Right, 30 seconds to go. I'm now here all on my own, a bit like Maxime Guénard in the lead of the race, because had it under control. He's on to the last lap. Martin O'Connell's just in front of him. Martin O'Connell in the Gunston liveried Chevron after the delays of the 2-minute stop and go, dropped that out of the reckoning, but he's probably lapping nearly as fast as the Otford Group. Lola in behind him, but Maxime Guénard is many laps ahead, because in fact best part of 3 laps ahead, but that's with 2 laps penalty effectively, or a lap and a half for the Team Gunston Chevron. Going nicely, but down for the final time to the parabolique, the hairpin, with a very steep exit, and Maxime Guénard has been there, seen it, done it, won on it, won in this car, won in other cars. He already was first the checkered flag in the opening race of the day. That was the Heritage Touring Cup. Still waiting for final adjudication on an investigation that may not help him, but I'm not second guessing that one. But into the final corner now, just coming out of the penultimate corner, dropping, and look at the compression at the bottom. And it was interesting hearing from Gabby von Oppenheim, even in her 2002 TII, she said you have to sort of scream at yourself to keep your foot flat, because you want to carry as much momentum as you can up the slope, and it really is a slope, up to the start-finish line, and then there is the checkered flag being brought out. So Maxime Guénard, job done very, very nicely indeed, and particularly after his father Dominique retired his toy, it was in the bag. Almost never in doubt. Mind you, can never say that, because quite simply often drivers going around see something, hear something that may be untoward. But victory to him today. Second place overall for Ross and Charlie Hyatt. There comes their green chevron up the slope. Car number 131 winning the under 2 litre class. And the delayed toy, the Warsteiner car, at least gets the finish of the race. But the race belonged to Maxime Guinard, car number 50, a number he likes on the flanks of his cars. Under 2 litre class to Charlie Hyatt, who's bringing it home, and his father Ross, who started it. And the GT class in 4th place overall. Well, it was almost never in doubt. Dennis and Mark Bush in their Porsche 935. 3rd place, by the way, went to Frederic Rouvier, car number 45. Sharing with Gianluigi Candiani in their Chevron BMW, also in the under 2 litre class. So an hour has elapsed. The last 2 cars just coming up to take the checkered flag. I think that's done. Few cars unfortunately ending up in the pit lane, including Nick Padmore in that late charge in the Tony Sinclair Lola, the Crown Racing Lola, and that showed great pace too. Didn't make it to the finish, but victory for Maxime Guinard, an entire lap on the board for him. 43 laps of fun for him, and that's the 2nd checkered flag he's taken today. And for a lot of these drivers, in fact, now we're going to a sort of a track session for various clubs. There'll be a chance for some of them to have a breather, because there are probably quite a lot of these people in the very next race as well. And that is due to be starting, that's Classic Endurance Racing 1 for the older cars, starting at 12:55. And local time here, that makes it just over an hour and a half from now. But the Otford Group Lola has been a winner here before many times. Maxime Guinard's been a winner here before many times, and he just made that car sing, had the beautiful flow. Parking up next to the other car from the family, that's his father's car, the black and white and green BP liveried toy, parked in the half shadow. Good to see the shadow. That means there's proper sunshine here at Circuit de Dijon-Prenois. Again, don't forget, it was a race in which there were GT class cars as well. And the best place of those was in 4th place overall, the Bush brothers, the Bush twins. And Dennis and Mark Bush, good run for them, but as you'd come to expect. So, gave his mechanic a lift up to the shade, the place the winners get to connect. So that's it for the morning's Enterprise for TV. We'll be back just before 12:45 and go on to the next section. Thanks for staying with us.